Hey everybody, welcome to the UD6 first qualifier tournament. I'm today with Mythical. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really excited to see how everyone does. They've been competing in all kinds of learning tournaments and blind races and the just general community races happening on the Thursdays. But it's we kept talking about building up that experience competing in a race environment, and it's for events like today's when they start to matter. They start to count towards qualification for the big grand finals. Then is kind of what the UD season all leads up to.
Yeah, so it's today we have a very interesting tournament going on. We have this is the first the first like the playoffs for the July tournament. So today, next week, and the week after that, we are playing for two places for the grand finals. We are having just 8 players on that grand final, so we have to break it down somehow from the 100 players we have active in the community. So this is the first tournament, and the playoffs are played on Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, Trials 2, Metal Slug, Inertia, and Shovel Knight. We have 21 runners ready for those games, and only the top 8 will make it on the next week. Top 8 is a little bit harsh, but that just means if you're not ready, if you have like one single game you're not perfectly ready to do a speedrun on, you are going to be cut off.
Yeah, pretty much. If one of those games was next week's game, maybe you can skirt by today and learn that last game in the upcoming week. But it's going to be tough for sure. Players have done such a fantastic job of learning so many games so quickly. I've been very impressed with everyone's performance, kind of across the board, really. But there are a couple people who seem to have risen to the top in a way that is extremely remarkable and are pretty likely to. I mean, they're going to be like, top 4 or something today, but like only the top 2 are going to advance. So even some really strong players are going to get cut out of that top 4, but we can see now. Take a look at our 21 players who are going to be competing today in the 5 games. We're going to start with Castlevania, move on to Trials, Metal Slug, Inertia, Shovel Knight. Remember those little pictures, they'll help in the future for future broadcasts, and should be good.
Yeah, so our top 8 today is Devil Tifa, Zoff, Melwest, Brothermain, Barramundo, Skunkov, Toru, and Sabli, and that's by PBs, obviously. So those players are the most likely to make it next week, but obviously this is speedrunning races, so everything does not go quite as planned all the time, so it's actually very close, and we'll see on the first few matches on Castlevania and Trials who takes the lead, and then we are going to focus on the 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th place, because that's where all the action is going to happen. I suspect the top players to take like a huge lead right off the bat, like by 10 or 20 points on each game, but down there a little bit lower on the leaderboard we are going to see like some very close action, because all those players are very close by if we go by PB, and it's going to be very intense for those players. Obviously, if you qualify at the 8th place, next week is going to be very tough, because you are going to have to grab and get to the 4th place to at least make it. But do remember that it's going to be on 5 other games. We are playing on the 10 full list for the UD, and that means that we are going to see some very interesting action going on, because obviously for some players the 5 games we are playing today are their weaknesses, and for some other players they are their strengths. So it's going to be super sweet to see how well the players improve from week 1 to week 2, how well they've practiced those 5 games up until now, and obviously like the selection is all over the board. We have like some very old games, some 2D games, some 3D games. You have to be like on point with your skills, and obviously you are going to prefer a game over the other at some point. Like it's obvious, I think.
Yeah, we saw players definitely take to different games at different rates and with different amounts of willingness. And we got a pretty good spread today, actually. I think Shovel Knight and Castlevania, a ton of people all jumped in, but something like Inertia, I think people were a little hesitant towards. It's definitely it takes some getting used to. If you're not used to the first person platforming perspective, you have a ridiculous amount of inertia, of course, the name of the game. So you have very little control over your character, and it's just a very different thing. So that was something a lot of players had to grapple with. There's a couple other games kind of like that are not in our 5 today. I'm thinking about Story About My Uncle and Spectre Ball. And of course, Trials is kind of its own thing. It started a whole bike flipping tilty physics genre. So that kind of sits off to the side, challenging players with an entirely different skill set that they're going to have to, come up with, not quite master, but they'll have to really get the hang of it if they want to compete. Because if you fall really far on one game, it is very tough to make it up over the others. Certainly there's a bit of that, but generally to really get to the top 8, the top 4, the top 2, you really need to start doing well at pretty much every game.
Yeah, that's at least the spirit and of the UD, and in the facts that we can observe, it's exactly what's happening. Like all the players are actually like spending a lot of time learning all those 10 games. So just a little bit what Castlevania is about, and it's no surprise, it's all about killing bosses, finding your way through a maze, and the races are very interesting because you have on that specific game, like the reason it's on the UD list is all about the RNG manipulation. It's a very interesting aspect of speedrunning. It requires immense precision. You have to know exactly what you're doing to understand exactly how the game works, and that's the 4 or 5 spots where you have to get like some exact drops. That's where it's all going to break down between the players. If you miss one manip, you might like lose 10 points right off the bat, and that's going to be pretty interesting to see. And without any transition, let's see the player cards. The main reason a lot of players are still in the UD is to make those player cards shine. We see here Zoff, second place on the grind leaderboard and second place in the races leaderboard. You see a huge difference between those two because we give very little opportunity to have like a score race. Like the score time, the race times are just there for the official races, so that's the official tournaments. We had only one chance per game so far, and this is like today maybe for Zoff the opportunity to have a better Shovel Knight race, a better Castlevania Eye of Sorrow race, because like his PB improved a lot since he raced them.
Yeah, also those are the two oldest games introduced to UD, first and second respectively. And also there was just a big blank spot on Donkey Kong Country. Missed that week, so is probably going to be hoping to qualify for obvious reasons, but qualifies then next week he'll be able to set a time at Donkey Kong Country. We got Mel West, who is the master of grind and doesn't come out too much for the races so much. Has a Shovel Knight time, but this is a player where it was a bit of a wild card, I think, last season, where was at the top of the leaderboards, but wasn't really coming out for the races. So I was a little unsure if he could perform the same, and then he did. He did very well. So this number 67 for race, don't think too much about that. Mel West is definitely in contention to qualify today.
Seeing him so early in the season is usually that wild card you described, just waiting for the last moment to qualify. But UD6 is all about those 8 places we are giving, and if you skip an opportunity or two to get into that pool, you just have that less chances to get into the grand finals, because we have more than 8 players capable to journey in that. more than 8 players put the time and effort to learn those speedruns. So Melwest does not want to skip a chance. He just want to get that second place or first place on the July tournament and be done with it. And if he doesn't make it, that means he just has to put more effort and time into learning the speedruns, and he will have another shot at it in August or September. So we'll see, and we see a lot of different profiles circling here, but Devil Tifa is probably the most striking one. He has the world record on Spectra Ball, as you can see with that little white slash on the player bar. He is almost full in every single game. He had like a very good race success, a lot of race PBs, and overall a very solid player. Almost always, on every single game he has a top 3 spot, either in PBs or in races, which is fantastic. And probably he's the one player that everybody thinks is going to be first, maybe during the this July tournament, but that's yet to be seen, because once again, races are never decided until you see the end of the final split, and a lot of stuff can happen. UD is all about learning 10 games and being able to play them back to back, and if you ever speedrun, you know that sometimes it just does not work, it does not click exactly like you want to. Maybe the players never practiced playing, like switching games so fast between 2, and maybe if you go from Castlevania of Sorrow to Trials, it's super hard to get your muscle memory back.
Yeah, that's one thing that hasn't really been tested so far. We've had lots of races for lots of different games, and a couple times we doubled up, due to some scheduling reasons. We had some nice double games. We paired Spectra Ball and Cuphead, and we paired Inertia and Metal Slug. So there was, those are pretty different games. There was definitely a chance to get used to that kind of idea, but really not a lot of testing players' ability to switch gears from one kind of game to another. And I don't know if that's something a lot of players would even really practice or even think to practice. I think they would probably just, do the games, do the PB attempts or whatever. So for anyone who's not a UD veteran, that could definitely maybe surprise them a little bit. Thankfully, they'll have a bit of time to warm up in between games, but there's really not a lot. You kind of got to be ready to really throw out whatever happened in the previous race, if it went good, and especially if it went bad. Put that out of your mind and focus only on what's ahead. For now, the players are going to be looking ahead to Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. Mel West, we see, is taking every possible moment to practice the ever important creaking skull manipulation.
Yeah, so it's going to start pretty soon. All the runners are getting ready. All the runners are playing on the exact same version of the game, on Bezoak version 2.2.2. And let's go. Getting ready there. And it starts nicely. It's a game that looks almost normal so far. You just have your main character, Soma, and his little dagger at the start, getting ready to fight some zombies and skeletons and maybe kill Dracula. And it's all about being able to understand the mechanics of the castle, because obviously this is a part of the Metroidvania series, so you have a lot of ways to go through and a lot of skills to gather to be able to keep on going. But you are going to see that on Aria of Sorrow, the speedrun does quite some very precise movement at some points, and we are going to see that actually very fast, because every single enemy has a soul that it can drop. Some souls are completely useless, and some souls are completely OP. And obviously in a speedrun, you want to be very lucky to have the correct soul. So we saw a sleep, so a reset, that reset the RNG, and doing exactly the correct kill. Devil Tifa actually misses it, Brotherman gets it. This is very precise. Zoff gets it, and Melwest gets it also. Devil Tifa, the only one that has missed the drop. I saw a discussion on the UD Discord whether or not you have to reset or not. At that point, Devil Tifa chooses to reset.
I was wondering. Because this is something where if you compare the optimal routes for whether you know, do this entire manipulation to get this soul and whether you don't, the difference is actually not that big. It definitely feels that big, especially because once you see how much damage this thing does to the first boss, it feels like, oh man, I really have to get this thing. But it's from that point, once the boss is already dead, it's pretty comparable to just keep going without it. But that only really works. The second time is going to connect for Devil Tifa, so no horrible infinite loop here for Devil Tifa. That second time around, you need to know how to make do without it, right? You need to know how to really fight the first boss very well, and all the things that you count on the Creaking Skull to do. You need to be able to adapt without it. So if you don't know those strategies to really make use of it, I'm not surprised to see a player reset and just do the manipulation again.
Yeah, it's pretty much equal if you get it on the second try. If you start looping on a failure, obviously that's going to be awful for you. Devil Tifa had practiced the game quite recently, had a 34-minute time, which is like fantastic. World record is at 32 minutes. VB Speedrun took it back recently. And
this backdash jump is catching Devil Tifa up, just trying to get to this armor. It's not a super hard trick. It's more pretty precise with how you'd be surprised how consistent people get at something that is as precise as that. But Devil Tifa seems to be a little frayed here in game number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Is a little bit off. Once again, this is our first multi-game tournament. Maybe the players kind of forgot the pressure that can bring, because sometimes the stress it all involved, because sometimes, you are already thinking about the second game. If you're not like super focused on what's happening right now on screen, it's very easy to let your spirit wander and go like, oh my god, I need to be able to do well on trials. Well, actually you just have to focus on Eye of Sorrow right now, and it's very interesting to understand what the mind of the players can go through. As Brotherman gets first to the Manticore here, quite an easy boss, completely smashed by the Creaking Skull actually, and it's already over for Brotherman.
Yeah, main attack's doing 9, Creaking Skull doing 52, so you have to hit the boss quite a number of times just to make up one extra hit for the Creaking Skull. So even if you don't do anything to the boss, as long as you're hitting him with the Creaking Skull, you're gonna save, maybe 1 or 2 cycles, I guess, of your Creaking Skull swing. But either way, the boss is down now, both for Brother Mains of Mel West is approaching it, and Devil Tifa is still a little ways back. I'm seeing a lot of I'm seeing actually all 4 players are doing this backdash movement tech. This is something that is very hard to do. I think when we first saw this game, we were talking about, like, are people even going to bother to learn to do this? Because you have to get very good at it before it is even worth it. You have to stop moving forward, press backwards, hit the backdash button, and then if you want to extend it a little bit, you could try to jump, and there's some really advanced stuff. But doing that turnaround backdash input fast enough and reliably enough to actually save time with it is very tricky. So I'm very happily surprised to see all 4 players going for at least some throwing in these backdashes here.
Actually, I'm counting, because you have to have over a 90% success rate with those backdashes for it to be even. So if you are at 90% success rate, which is like already crazy for such precise input, you're not even saving time, you're just breaking even. That's what we saw on the very close race between Brotherman and Skunkoff during the team tournament, where the 2 players were like neck to neck all the time, but Brotherman was obviously technically a little bit better, but just missed enough backdashes, just barely enough backdashes for Skunkoff to catch up all the time. And if you see a player like miss a backdash or 2 in a single room, he is lost about a second. So it is tricky. It is not an easy decision to make whether you go for them or not. And those players are playing a long term. Even if those few backdashes they miss cost them the race today, they know that practicing them right now will save time maybe in 4 months just due to more practice. So it is very interesting to see. Obviously, a lot of them are losing time right now because of it. Devil Tifa just making it to the armor, or as Zoff and Brother Main neck to neck in the library here, with the double jump already. Melwest right behind them, and very close between those three so far.
Great armor down for Devil Tifa.
Iron Plate also good drop.
Oh yeah, the players go pretty much without armor. They pick up that leather armor on a shelf, but until the war fatigues, you don't really get any more armor. So that's a nice little thing to hold on to, especially because you have to go through the clock tower before you get those war fatigues. So that's a scary moment. The death fight is a scary moment. A tricky moment here for Brother Main. Gets up there. This is a backdash jump into a double jump. You're not really supposed to be able to do this. Nice job. You're supposed to have the flying armor, but there's it doesn't take too long to grab it, but the players do want to save that time, so they do skip it. It's the trick is letting off the D-pad. If you press left too soon, you will sort of cancel the extra momentum from your backdash. So it takes a bit of patience to let the backdash carry you backwards on its own before you turn around and start holding the D-pad. And it tripped up Brother Main a little bit, but both Melwest and Zof got it first try, I'm pretty sure, and everyone is off and running. Still very close here, 8 minutes into Area of Sorrow.
Yeah, so far we saw almost the normal round, except that flying armor they all skipped. It's what you would be doing, and Devil Tifa misses it also, so that's everybody missing it at least, almost, or maybe just Brother Main, I'm not sure. But I'm surprised. I really feel like those players are a bit shaken by the tournament going on. Like it's not what they do on their like no reset attempts I've seen on their streams. I'm surprised actually, because those four are veteran speedrunners for the UD. They've all done multi-game races. Zoff has put on a lot of practice and a lot of he set up a lot of races, doing like just drafting 3 or 4 games and just running them back to back without preparing much before. Like they all know what's coming, and it's Castlevania Eye of Sorrow is a tough game, don't hear me wrong. I'm just not blaming the runners, but I'm surprised, and it shows how involved they are, I think, because if you care too much, you are going to miss a couple of hits. Brother Main being catched by that imp and falling back there. Oh no, he makes it.
Oh, the double jump, nice. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get out of that. That platform takes surprisingly a long time to complete its cycle up and down, so that would have... for now, he maintains this 1 second lead over Zof as the players are moving through the Hanging Gardens, I think? It's something gardens.
Floating gardens.
And make their way towards the clock tower.
So we saw in the waterway a very precise jump that you are not really supposed to be able to make, except if you aim for that one single pixel. So the category is glitchless, but obviously for that category is allowed RNG manipulation. You call that a glitch or not, but it is okay in that category. And that very precise jump is barely a glitch. It was for a time not allowed on that specific category, and then got in because like it's just about jumping. You might be able to do it by accident on your first playthrough. I actually did. I didn't realize how precise it was up until like my 4th or 5th try on running that game, because it's just like a straight jump on that platform sometimes. And Brother Main catches the Mistletoe here, a holy weapon that will be very, very convenient to have for the upcoming death fight.
Yeah, so they've been running with, either some drop that they on the way. And the only thing I had to kill have been the first few bosses. So, but that's going to change here. We've skipped some stuff here. Death is further into the game with a much higher health pool. So. Creaking Skull, you're going to run out of magic. It's not going to do enough damage. And your piddly little sword hitting for 8 or 9 or whatever it is is not going to cut it. So Mistletoe is a huge help. It's going to be hitting like that. Brother Main's going to... And this is a tough fight. The players have some health potions that they've picked up along the way, but not too many. And the big danger with Phase 1 here is, of course, these scythes that just materialize all over the place. You need to kind of, be worried about, which is obviously super important. You want to go fast. You want to kill. But you need to be keeping track, not only of its are, but how long it's been since you last saw scythe, because if you know it's been about a second or a second and a half or whatever it is since you've seen a scythe, chances are one's about to spawn. And if you don't see it spawning, it might be right on top of you, so you might need to move. So keeping track of this whole dance throughout that first phase is very tricky. The players seem to be doing very well. I haven't seen any menus or health potions opened up yet, and we're into Phase 2 for Brother Main and Zoph now.
Yeah, very close race so far. Brother Main and Zoph getting to the second phase almost at the same time. This is a tricky fight, and it's very, very tricky to also go fast, because if you want to be safe, like keeping track of all the sites as you described can be tricky, but if you want to hit as much as possible, that is like by double jumping and hitting at the same time as we see every runner do, it's like even trickier because you have a lot of inputs to think about. Like it's double jumping while hitting is actually fairly precise. We are going to see that exactly done on Balor in about like a couple of maybe 10 minutes, a bit less than that. And it's fairly difficult, and Zoph, Brother Main and Melwest making it almost at the same time. Brother Main taking a safety save here, which is totally understandable, because if you die and haven't saved, obviously you go back to the start of the game. So in a race, you want to be able to save sometime. Like, I don't know how often they would save you, but do remember that this is a multi-game tournament, so even if you lose about 5 minutes on Eye of Sorrow, it's still better. Even if you are going to be like on 10th or 12th place, it's still better than just scoring 0 for that specific game.
Yeah, the dreaded 0 is a problem, and there's sort of a cutoff here. If you don't score above that 100-point mark, which is somewhere north of an hour, I believe, for Area of Sorrow, but that does get you the 0, so that's really just going to totally kill your chances. Definitely something the players are going to avoid at all costs.
50 minutes for Area of Sorrow.
50, okay. That's a low number that you got to do to get that Area of Sorrow. All right, Devil Tifa saved after defeating the boss here. There are these save rooms scattered throughout the map that you don't necessarily need, but offer for obvious safety reasons during races. So it's kind of up to the players to decide how risky they want to be. Definitely, I've seen players save. You mostly just want the health refill before the death fight. So going in there and saving beforehand. Saving afterwards is a sign that a player is willing to sacrifice some time for that extra safety. So that's where Devil Tifa is at. Other players have all done their shopping here. They've picked up a number of health potions, mana potions, and the War Fatigues armor. They finally got a nice armor upgrade. They actually have no weapon right now. You can see them punching candles with their bare hands. They'll pick up a weapon soon, though, because we're on our way to the underground something or other. It's not there. The catacombs,
underground reservoir. Yeah.
All right.
So the menu management and item management is fairly precise in that game. Obviously, you want to be able to buy all the potions you need. So here we picked up 4 mines up and high mines up, and some like minor potions, because the health management is actually very important. Obviously, you want to be all the time able to go rush through the enemies instead of just having to kill them, because you are so under leveled that killing anyone at that point takes just an hour. So we get a weapon or Rahab sword here that deals ice or water damage, which is not that convenient here, but good enough to get our next weapon. It's all about like being able to do the extra next step, just having what's necessary to go through the next small amount of rooms you need to go through. And when you have an item you don't need, you can sell it, and selling an item is obviously necessary to buy the next set of potions or the next sword, the next armor, and it's all about being able to buy whatever you need to beat the game, and everything builds up to the next, to the last few bosses. Graham, Julius, and Chaos are super tough, long fights, and you need to have enough potions, enough damage to deal with it. And everything in the round actually like takes that into account, just for the players to be able to deal with that. So it's a fantastic round, very well crafted. It actually changed heavily between the start of the UD and what we are right now. We are going to see Brothermain do a new RNG manip to get the Triton Soul that gives the players plus 16 strength, which is exactly plus 16 damage per hit, so that's quite a lot.
Yeah, especially on the leader the leader bosses. Players are going to be doing not that much damage, so adding a flat 16 actually ends up being a very large increase. We've got Triton playing his weird little Vuvuzela horn thing that he ends up doing. I don't know if we have the game audio going, but it has this cute little sound effect, but he's dead and we got the soul, so that's good. Another manipulation down, and another very tough manipulation coming up. It's well, I don't know what other players. It's probably going to be a double manipulation, I assume, going for the Levitane sword and the Flame Demon Soul. The Flame Demon Soul required, the sword just speeds things up. So whack the wall twice, 4 hits here. There's our sword drop. We leave and come back. We are going to see this manipulation get split up here by Brothermain. Two separate manipulations. Cool.
Oh, he doesn't get it, so did he get it?
He, well, he's got the Flame Demon Soul,
okay,
and he seems to be leaving.
Brothermain slept, so he's going back, doing it all over again. And Melwest got the double manip, so that means double manipulation means that he got 2 drops manipulating the RNG without sleeping it in between them. We are going to see maybe a triple manip where all the inputs from the first drop to the third drops are precise enough to get them. And Brothermain is stuck here in the loop and actually like losing a lot of time. Even Devil Tifa passes him. So that's why I said right off the go that the drops and the RNG manipulation is mandatory to be good at for to get a good run going. And Melwest and Devil Tifa first and second now, Zoff in third place and Brothermain in fourth place, and they're all having some issues there here and there, and I guess they're all about like maybe a minute or 2 minutes behind their PB pace.
Yeah, I would have thought that the top time, like, well, we're not done yet, but I think the top finisher here is going to be a little behind what I would have thought the top finisher would have been. Everyone has had some sort of stumbling point so far. That Flame Demon really got Brothermain and Zoff, but they are both past it now, and Creaking Skull got Devil Tifa. Melwest has had not really manipulation troubles, but some other things along the way. But obviously the manipulation troubles do cost quite a bit of time, so that is why Melwest is currently in the lead. Is going to be the first one to reach Balor, which is not the giant bat. It is this guy that just totally crushed the giant bat and absorbed its... well, no, the soul is actually in the other room. You do get a Balor soul that the players will probably use actually in some manipulation. But for now, they're in this boss fight. Creaking Skull doing actually less damage than your sword now, but it still helps out. It's still an extra hit every now and then, so they're going to keep that thing going. And it's pretty easy to stay in a nice pattern with Balor, but if you get these fists desynced with each other so that they kind of start coming down 1-2 rather than together like Saw, he can be a problem. So Melwest manages to control that fight and move on to the second phase before it becomes too much of a problem. And wow, took one final hit there, but does manage to get the kill.
Careful, little Tifa. not in his best day today, apparently, just having like a couple of mishaps here and there. When you get to the second phase of Balor here, all the deal is to be able to do the double hits. So that means that you have to delay your jumping and your hitting very nicely, so you can like have a second hit on the way down. He used a potion there, which is surprising, but he's playing it safe, and I understand the choice. Zoff getting to second phase right now, Brotherman right behind him, and Mel West leaving the arena right now, having the Giant Bat Soul, which allows to fly, and being able to fly is very good because that means he's able to dodge some extra enemies, just go faster. He's playing it safe, baiting that enemy here, and I love all those safety strat they're all doing. And here we had a look at Mollyman, Skunkov, Toru, and Sablier. Sablier and Mollyman stuck in the flame room. Toru must have had like an issue on death because he's very far behind, and Skunkov is getting to Balor, so that's actually like close for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place. But Devil Tifa, Brotherman, Mel West, and Zoff, even if they had some issues at the start of the game, making good progress and showing who's the fastest.
We got Mel West is flying as a bat here. Ever since the manipulation with the Flame Demon, I think things kind of kick off and reach a whole new level of maybe not necessarily difficulty or precision required, but in terms of punishment if you miss it. I guess maybe death is the first thing where if you screw up there, it's really, really, really bad. Creaking Skull, pretty bad, but it gets worse. There's some really tough manipulations coming up. I'm not sure what kinds of manipulations the players are going to be doing, but the options for double and triple manip are coming up. And there's also some options for how they want to deal with these lubricant enemies. These are extremely annoying. You can just see here how well they track your movements. Mel West not even opting to save.
Yeah, very nice up until that final floor here where a guy got hit twice.
That's just how it goes. He's going to be happy to get through that room.
Yeah, I hate that one. To be honest, it's one of the worst rooms in the entire game. We see Double Tifa here, and yeah, he takes like a stop to reposition all the lubricants, and now he has to deal with 3 of them, and yeah, finally makes it.
Okay.
It is bad. We see all the runners go to that small room getting the super potion. It's obviously just a safety strat. You don't need per se that super potion, but you do expect to take some hits. And if you take a hit, you want to be able to heal because you are expecting to take another hit, and eventually you will die because everything hurts so much. You have so little armor and HP, and you are so under level at that point of the game. I don't know if you remember how much max HP you had when you played through the game the first time,
it's like
but
830 or something at the end.
So we are lacking like 200 or 300 HP pretty much here.
Triple manipulation successful for Mel West, and I see Devil Tifa swinging that massive Mune around, so pretty sure it went the same for him as well. Succubus Soul required to beat the game. Muramasa is just a really strong weapon, especially with the way it hits. And Red Minotaur Soul that we just saw for Zoff as well is very important for actually dealing some major damage in some of the last few boss fights. Brother Main's going to be going for it here.
Yeah, nice. They all got the hardest manip in the game. They had to have like precise inputs. That being the timing when you hit, the way you hit, if you double hit, if you single hit, the jumps and the item you use. You have to do all that in the correct sequence at the correct time, depending on the enemy behavior, to have the drops you need. And that's actually like a lot of memorization you have to go through. That is pretty unusual when you speedrun. Like, learning sequences based on position or timing is usually normal, but the inputs should flow normally. At that point, you have a pit before you, then you jump. That's natural, that's instinct. But like saying here you have to whiff 3 times, that's not normal. It's just something you have to learn precisely. and it's all fun and games up until you miss it, and then you have to start all over again. But it works nicely in the end for all the players there.
We've got Devil Tifa and Mel West onto the second phase of the Graham fight. And it looks like Mel West is going to be the first one done. You want to keep your Triton Soul, at least more than the others, I suppose, equipped because of the extra damage. But you do need to make sure that before you go past the point of no return that you have the correct souls equipped. You need Flame Demon, Succubus, and Giant. They embody the various aspects of Dracula. The story probably not worth going into too much, but Soma is sort of the reincarnation of Dracula all along, and yeah, you need to sort of embrace your Dracula-ness in order to actually get the full ending of the game, which is part of the category we are doing. So in terms of mechanics, it means you need to switch to those souls correctly. If you actually go too far without doing the switch, you will get locked into the bad end. It's a pretty bad way to lose time, but everyone's done that successfully. Boss is down. Black Panther acquired, as well as Hippogriff. So now not only are we moving horizontally incredibly fast, we're going to kill small enemies with our weird electric barrier that we get, but we're also able to shoot very fast upwards. And these priest movement options just make this a blitz to the end of the game here.
We see Devil Tifa taking a little detour here to get the Vajaya. I don't know how you pronounce that, but it's an item just so you are able to sell it for 22k, I think. So you have like a lot of extra cash just to be able to buy a bunch of potions here and there. You get to the final fight with max potions, either health or mines up, so that's just cool and all for you. But Brother Main takes the same detour. I don't know what Mel West ends up. Yeah, Zoff does the same thing. So there's no gentleman agreement here. It's all just for you, but all the runners take the same decision because it's all the safer, and they are pretty much at the same PB for the game, pretty much the same skill level, and it's normal they take the same routes. And now that you have Black Panther, it's just giant backtracking to the Floating Gardens.
Yeah, Mel West actually got just a touch lost on one of the screens, went down towards the underground area rather than up, rocketing past the heroic skeleton wearing a lovely scarf there. Oh, we gave it to him a little bit, but he gave it back. His kicker skeleton is not to be messed with, but he's not important. What's important is Julius. Is the fight coming up. Julius knows Dracula. He comes to stop you. And he is on the side of good. He is wholly elemental. And to help combat that, we've got a dark elemental sword that we picked up just after the Graham fight, the Khalid here. It's got some pretty meaty delay as it swings all the way around, but you can cancel it. And it does some really good damage here. So that's what we're going to be using for this fight. This is a tough fight. The way to really go fast here is to Julius to swing high and then duck under it. But if you're already crouching, he will duck down and swing low at you, and you're probably going to take a hit. You can only take so many. The other important thing is to make sure that you're counting your hits. Every third hit is going to stun Julius. And so that, even if he's about to attack you low, your swing is going to hit him, interrupt him, and you're not going to get hit back. So that lets you be as aggressive as you need to make this fight go, because he's got so much health. Even though you've got this dark elemental sword, he still has 2,000 health or something, and you're hitting for 70. So yeah, this is a long fight.
I don't remember, but I think he has like 9k HP or 6k, 4k for the first phase and 2k for the second phase.
Oh yes,
something
that's
along
right.
those lines. I know the final boss has 9k per thing you can hit. He has multiple weak points, and everything has 9k HP. But I don't remember exactly the numbers. But on that game, the health the bosses have are always exceeding what you expect. It's insane. You have to hit the boss a lot, and that's why Mel West is using the Death Soul. But Devil Tifa got a way better fight and got to the Chaotic Realm first. It's insane how much time you can save on that fight, depending on Julius' behavior and how you manipulate it. But Mel West finally breaks him, but it's exactly at the same time as Brother Main and Zoff, just switching to the second phase here. And we see like the entire weapon set for the vampire killers with the obviously the whip, the cross, the holy water, the axe. All that is reminiscent to the classic Castlevania games. Obviously, even the theme is a vampire killer for that fight. So it's all about that nostalgic vibe, and that fight is just a nice reward for actually getting to the second half of the game, because we are getting to the good ending there, where you need to beat Graham Jones with the correct souls. If you didn't have the correct souls, the game just finishes after Graham Jones, actually. And obviously for speedrun, we want the good ending, we want just the actual end with the correct credits. But if you were to be technical about the game, and any person could just end at Graham Jones, you have an ending there. But no one cares to run that, it's just not fun enough.
Plus, you want to see this crazy grayscale, washed out, mixed up castle chaotic zone that Devil Tifa is currently tearing through. It's been repopulated with pretty much all the most dangerous enemies in the game, and they've done a pretty good job of banging Devil Tifa up. But he survives and gets to that statue, so he's going to get that health refill, and he's going to get into the final fight here. But like you said, he kind of passed up Mel West during that Julius fight. I thought it was going okay for Mel West, so it must have gone fantastic for Devil Tifa. It's going to be the first one into the boss fight. He's going to lose his precious souls here. Not that we had too many of them the way we've been going through the game. If we weren't manipulating the drops, we probably wouldn't have any. But the Muramasa and its double hit here is going to come in handy. It's going to do a ton of work. If you can kill a yellow one, you're going to get your Triton soul back, and that's going to increase your damage just a little bit. But it's really more about just hitting whatever you can here. Yeah, he's actually going to focus up the red and go for the yellow.
So you have like 1 frame to get a red Minotaur right off the bat, right off the go, before the boss steals your souls and you cannot use them anymore. And having that frame perfect input actually saves a lot of time, because you have that giant axe that deals 500 damage twice to each core, so that's like a third of the boss HP gone, and it's just frame perfect. You have, like, we can say that here, where it's not frame perfect anymore. You can use it as much as you want, but it sucks up all your mana, so you need to use all your potions back and forth for that final chaos form here. And it's very close. Brother Main, Devil Tifa on that fight. Melwest getting to it right now. Zoff getting to the through the first phase right now also. It's a very close race.
Yeah, so I was just about to remark that this boss fight doesn't test your regular skills that you've been building throughout most of this. This boss is mostly testing your ability to menu quickly. You need to get in and out of those menus to drink those potions as fast as possible. And that's the kind of thing that players don't really practice. It's the kind of thing that can fly under the radar a little bit. So I thought maybe Brother Main was going to pull it back with some fantastic menuing, but it looks like Devil Tifa is going to be the one to finish in first. Brother Main is got the Creaking Skull out here to finish things up. He's got to be very close to finishing this off. Mel West also letting loose one more axe. Zof in the final as well. There it is for Brother Main. It's going to be finishing in second. It's not really so much about first, second, third, fourth, though. It's about how many points you earn and how many points you earn across all 5 games that's going to determine whether or not these players qualify for next week's event.
I'm amazed because Devil Tifa, missing the Creaking Skull, managed to get a sub 35, so 34 minutes time. And if he were to get the Creaking Skull first try, he lost about 50 seconds or a minute there. He would have PB'd. So he is the runner that, if you put him through tougher times, is going to perform even better. It's always amazing how he managed to pull back in first place, even if he starts last. I've seen that a lot, and I'm still amazed, like in awe, before how well he does under pressure. That's probably that player's bigger strengths, and that's something I would love to see everybody have, because it's just so strong being able to be like, okay, I'm last, I know I can do it, I will end up first. It's amazing.
I definitely agree. Very impressive comeback by Devil Tifa. And also, you know, Brother Main ran into a lot of troubles with the Flame Demon manipulation, dropped from first down to third, I think it was very close with Zoph. Managed to pass up Mel West and managed to get really close to Devil Tifa, so not quite the comeback in terms of placement, but stayed strong enough to compete and pick up a lot of points there to stay close to Devil Tifa, which he's going to need because Devil Tifa is very strong across all the games. And I guess we'll get to that in due time. Skunkoff and Mollyman on stream in the final fight. No, Mollyman and Graham, rather. Skunkoff in the final fight.
Skunkoff was the one who put on such a strong fight against Brother Main a couple of days ago. And yeah, he still is not there, but he's so close all the time. We'll see Toru and Sablier feed very soon. And yeah, it's a good race, but once again, it's all about today who is going to be on the 8th place and who's barely not going to make it on the 9th place. So I'm very interested to see how well it's going to go. But obviously, Devil Tifa, Brother Main, Mel West, and Zoph getting over 200 points. The 200 points mark is at 40 minutes, 35 minutes. I don't remember exactly. But
34 sounds right to me.
30.
But still, over 200 points is fantastic. We were talking about like, oh man, the Flame Demon got them, and the Creaking Skull, and I guess it wasn't quite as good as. And then, oh, by the way, everyone's over the 200 point mark, the bar that is kind of supposed to be the last, the top really for players. Obviously, you can't quite always get it right. There's a bit of guesswork involved in where should this 200 point mark be, especially with a game like Spectra Ball or something. But that 200 point mark is extremely hard to reach, and the fact that all 4 of our top racers got it in a race for a qualifying event is a pretty fantastic start.
So Sablier with a slower menuing than what we've seen before. The menuing is never to be underestimated in any speedrun. Like, you can judge a speedrun just seeing a menuing all the time. Like, we've seen that in Rockman 2. It's one of the most fantastic games for that. You just look at any top runner menu for Rockman 2 and any beginner speedrunner for that game, and you see how much time there is to save here. And it's always true for a lot of speedruns. Obviously, Eye of Sorrow is no exception to that. But Skunkoff finishing the boss here, barely sub 40, still a good time. Sub 40 minutes for Eye of Sorrow is proof that you've learned extensively, you've practiced all the fights, you are able to beat the game testless, so it's always a good time to get. Sablier, Toru, Mollyman must have had some issues with the game because their PB are actually pretty strong. Sablier's PB is at 41 minutes, so yeah, he had some troubles. Toru is one of the best player for that UD. I'm amazed how well he's done for all the learning tournaments we've had, for all the PBs is submitted, but that's one of those players that will take a little more time compared to our veterans UD runners. Toru, it is Toru's first UD, and taking his time is actually maybe a strength compared to all the runners that want to shine right off the bat and sometimes burn out very quickly. We see usually a lot of runners take a 4 weeks break in the middle of the UD just to be able to get their motivation back up. Once you've learned all the game, it's pretty intense to just be, okay, I have some good PBs, now I have to improve all of them. That can be quite tiring. And taking your time may be the good solution for having some time to save on every game and knowing where you can improve rather than just burning through your forces right off the bat. Toru against Graham, taking his time. Mollyman is working his way back to Julius, taking the Vijaya here for some extra money. And Sablier against Julius. Tough fight.
Graham into phase 2 now for Toru. He's hitting it for 26, whereas Mollyman was hitting him for 17, I think it was. So, not sure what would account for the big difference in strength, but that's certainly going to speed up this fight, especially when you multiply it by 2 for each hit of the Muramasa. Sablier is getting bullied by Julius a little bit. It's really tough. Once Julius gets into the air, he's very hard to deal with, especially if you haven't hit him twice, and the third hit is going to knock him down. Kind of like Toru just got knocked down by Graham. He's going to take a death. It's late into the fight, too. The later into a boss fight you die, the worse it is. Okay, so
I wasn't sure. I was like, oh my god, tell me he's saved, because he died, but he lost just maybe 2 minutes, not 12.
Or 20 or 50 or whatever. You're never sure exactly how often a player is saved. There's a couple that are kind of right there and are right at key points that most players don't pass up, but you never know. Phew. Alright, so Sablier is done with Julius. Jats is now taking on this fight. About out of mana here as he reaches second phase. I've wondered if it's worth turning it off and making sure that you have it going for the second phase, but then some of the attacks are easier to deal with in the second phase, depending on where you are, I guess. So maybe players prefer. I guess he's got the magic, so he's just going to go ahead and go all out with his potions.
So the optimal way to fight Julius is to use Death only on the second phase. That's what the Worker does, and it ensures more bang for your bucks. For each mana point you are going to deal more damage if you use it just on the second phase. Obviously, if you go menu and get some mana points back for the second phase, it is good to use it on the first phase also. And as we see Mollyman punching for 375 damage on Julius' face with Balor. Very strong soul, but very slow to use. It can be very dangerous. Careful, Mollyman having very few little HP, using some potions obviously. But yeah, that Balor fist punch deals so much damage. You want to be able to use it as much as possible. And the discussion between Balor and Death is still unresolved for the Julius fight. It's all up to personal preferences and ability to survive the fight, I guess.
Mollyman's going to be moving on to phase 2. Sablier's working through the chaotic realm that Jats has just opened up and is actually leaving. I think he's going to go do another save here after that Julius fight, playing it rather safe here. Mollyman into the second phase now of the Julius fight as Toru once again is going through this Graham fight. Not happy to have to do this a second time, but here we are. He's going to finish it out and could maybe get in under the cutoff still. So
I checked. The cutoff is actually 52 minutes, and the 200 points is 37 minutes, and that's because the world record and the route improved so much that we forgot how much the player improved. Yeah, when we started, the world record was about 34 minutes, and obviously, being a long game, we gave some margin for the players to get an easier 200 points. But yeah, thanks to Kilai and the new route, we do not go get Curly nor Undying Soul, and we do not get the Claim Solace, which is actually a huge loss, but the 3-minute detour was actually not worth it. And yeah, the more players you get on a specific category, the more refined the routes get, and maybe the run got a little bit boring compared to the old route because you did so much more and you get such a better weapon, but you are just saving time, and that's all speedrunning is about.
There's certainly more menus during bosses to drink potions to attack. We used to get by on the raw power of the The Almighty claims to lay us a gigantic holy sword that also just lights up a whole bunch of different stats that is really fun to see your ultimate weapon do when you equip it. Mollyman is most of the way through the Chaotic Realm now. Jat's about a third of the way through. Sibley has passed the first phase of the final fight. I'm not sure what their potion situation is. Every time I say that, the person has plenty of potions, and it's not an issue whatsoever. But it's always a concern of mine watching someone go. Going to be switching back to the souls that we really want to be using for this fight. We've got to look at the menu there. It looks like a fair number of potions.
Toru actually did not switch souls correctly, and actually has to do it once again. So if you want to get to the good ending, as we've said before, you need to have the Succubus, the Flame Demon, and the Giant Bat souls. And Toru has actually only 5 minutes to beat the game, and maybe he will call it quit here, because that's almost not possible. And that's so heartbreaking, because Toru is one of those runners that can make it completely, like he is able to. But if you lose points on a single game, it's going to be so much harder, and if you just score 0, it's not going to be even possible. I wonder if he's going to go back on his feet and try to go as far as possible, but yeah, I'm pretty sad for him, as we see Jats and Mollyman on the top of the screen finishing Chaos, Sablier ahead of them. And I'm very happy, super happy to see Sablier on stream, because he said earlier that he was maybe not able to do that tournament, and sadly he was available next week and the week after that. So the UD is a huge endeavor, and it requires a lot of time and availability for from all the runners, and we ask a lot, and I'm really happy to see so many people commit to that event. And I will never be thankful enough. So yeah, congrats to Sablier finishing the game in under 50 minutes. Mollyman and Jats should be able to make it, and Toru will call it quit there and maybe get ready for the second game, which is going to be Trials 2.
Yeah, there's people come into the UD, and you kind of get what you in. So, or well, maybe that's not the right way to think about it. It's all about you can get out of it what you want. So if you just wanted to have some fun, maybe learn a couple of games along with a couple other people, you can do that. And there's certainly people who have. I think there was almost 100 people who came out for the first Shovel Knight races when the season first kicked off. So you can come out and have some fun and learn some games. And then there's people who really want to go in the competitive aspect that we're seeing today. Oh, Jats got really aggressive on that top right corner and actually dies here. And now we get a shot of, I guess that's Soma as Dracula has succumbed to the chaos of Dracula's soul. And I've never seen that before.
Oh, that's close. You will switch to the souls you want to use for the fight. And yeah, so there are 3 different endings for Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. We saw all 3 today, sadly. So we saw Toru's...
but we did.
Yeah, we saw Toru's bad ending when you kill Graham Jones, but you don't have the correct souls, and Alucard, which is the character in black you saw all through the game, just tells you, well, you're not anyone, you just go back to where you come from. Graham Jones is going to resurrect anyway, and what you did is all for nothing. If you are sent back to Japan, because it's all about Moon, and I don't know exactly why you get teleported to Transylvania, but you are there, and then you go back to Japan, and it's all over. We saw the second bad ending when you get killed by Chaos, and actually, yeah, as you said, you succumb to Dracula's soul, Dracula's power, and finally you get killed by Julius 20 years later. Julius is the one from the Belmont family that actually kills Dracula in the lore, and that's what you see it happening. So maybe that's the canon ending, or I've never played through I don't know, it's Dawn of Sorrow, which is like the final episode for that game. But the good ending, the one you want, is what you see on Sablia's screen, where Somas defeats Dracula's soul, kill Chaos, and everybody is happy, and good ending, yada yada yada. So the story is quite cheesy, and I don't know what Jats is doing here, taking a few hits on the eye hitbox here. You have to be very careful with your positioning there.
That's what got him last time, so I'm a little worried to see some more of it. And I also can't help but notice the timer is really ticking, and there's still a lot of eyes left up here. It doesn't quite have an object for the axe, I think. So it's just swinging away here with the sword. I don't think he's going to make it happen in time, and that is a big shame, because he was right there. Had just 2 eyes left, and the combo. You do get comboed in this game. Once you get hit once, you get knocked around, and you have pretty much no control. You can't even open the menu to drink more potions. So, I mean, it was kind of over anyway with the timer ticking at that point. You would really rather at least finish it out for your own peace of mind. That double combo at the end is going to be pretty rough.
Yeah, it's difficult fight. Jats, no good name remains on Twitch. Obviously, if you want, just follow all the runners. They're all putting on a good show today. And yeah, he's not able to make it, sadly. We are going to see what's coming next, and then we'll take a peek at the results for that first race. Once again, you want to gather as many points as possible to get out in at least the top 8 of that tournament, and to get to the second turn, the semi-finals, if you could call that, like just the top 8 playing through the 5 other games. But right now, Trials 2, which is hard to describe.
Yeah, so I think this has roots in a freeware game called Elastomania, which is probably the first instance of this sort of gameplay, where you are a man on a bike. You control the bike by tilting back and forth, and you navigate a level. Trials models so in addition to that, Trials also has roots in actually real-life Trials. It's not quite as insane as what you're seeing in the game. The courses are never, 20 feet up in the air. They're more like 3 feet in the air. But you can actually go check out YouTube videos of people on bikes doing those insane tricks, and I guess we can talk about that in a little bit, because for now we should take a look at the leaderboard and see just where everyone ended up. Our top 4 on stream ended up being our top 4 after all, finishing with that dark black, solid, beautiful 200 points. A plus for Devil Tifa, Brother Main, Mel West, and Zoph, with Devil Tifa and Brother Main and Mel West being just 2 points apart, and then 4 points between 3rd and 4th for Zoph. Vlad, Skunkoff, LF, Cute Shadow are going to round out our top 8 for now, and 8 is going to be the important number for today. That's going to be our cutoff for who gets to play in the second round of the quarterfinals, I guess you could, maybe semifinals we'll call it. In the 5 other games that's going to be next week. So keep an eye on that border between place and 9th place.
Yeah, so LF, Cute Shadow, The Mask, Xavier, Mollyman, Epsilon, and maybe we are lacking a couple of results, and we'll check if everybody that are raced are on there, because I'm surprised with some results. Exodo, Baramondo not making it is maybe surprising, but you want to be top 8, and if you are on Mollyman or Epsilon shoes, you know that you have to catch at least like 30 points back there. So it's possible, like 4 remaining games, everything can happen, but a point average to 6 seconds. So 10 points is about a minute, and you have to make that lead in average. Like Mollyman has to shave off 3 minutes compared to LF if he wants to make it to the top 8. And that's all that's going to happen next. And if you are Cute Shadow or the Mask at 2 points from each other at exactly the cutoff, it's probably going to be intense. Like, do you go for it? Do you just play your best bet and still play safe, like we've seen the top 4 do on Eye of Sorrow? Obviously, they played safe, but they are extremely good, so that did not show too much. And we have to remember also that we are playing the 10-game total on today, the playoff, and next week the semifinals, and we are going to play all them back to back again on the weekend of the 28th and 29th for the finals. And if you are already on that top 4 spot, you are Devil Tifa, Brother Main, Melwest, or Zoff, and you're like, okay, if I was on the final and I have to make it on the first 2 places, like Zoff is like, okay, that was the finals, I would have 8 points to make on Devil Tifa to get to second place or first place. And I know for the best players that's already like in their head, like it's already maybe in the mass, like incorporated, and being like, okay, because like, to be honest, to be fair, Devil Tifa, Brother Main, Melwest, and Zoff are most likely making it today on the top 8. I don't see them being disqualified. And next week, most likely, but do remember that it is on 5 other games, so we never know, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how well they do, how they adapt their strat on the next games. And once again, in the UD6, players have some different preferences, and Mollyman, for example, currently on the, I don't even see his name, 12 spot, 11 spot, is very, very good at Metal Slug, so he might like just save a lot of time there, and compared to even Devil Tifa, Melwest, or Zoff, so he might catch up to the top 4. We never know.
I know that he's been putting time into Metal Slug. Did you say actually got the record, or was that just a UD?
He's first in the
place.
UD leaderboard and got the record on a couple of levels. World record.
Oh, okay.
But total, all
right,
the 6 missions back to back. Sukimos is still undefeated. DTA, the second player, is also very, very good. So, and it's already started. I hope Brother Main feed just get there. And we are going to focus already on LF, Cute Shadow, The Mask, and Sablier. There are 8, 9s, 10s, and 7s actually. 7s, 8, 9s, and 10 in order to see who is going to make it and who's not going to make it. Once again, Sablier has to beat LF and Cute Shadow to get just a slight hope to get to that
finish from Cute Shadow. Did a front flip and just barely coasted by on the front tire. As long as your head gets across that finish line, you're all good.
So for Trials 2, the category is beat the easy and medium difficulty. So that's 19 courses you have to go through, 19 tracks. Every track looks similar but has like some high spot, like some difficulty points you want to go past, and usually it goes nicely except for a couple of jumps, a couple of tricky spots, and it's all about knowing what speed you need to be at and exactly what technique you want to use to get past a certain obstacle. The bunny hop, being like leaning backward and then forward mid-jumps, gives you just an extra forward momentum, barely enough usually to make it past certain spots. And obviously you can, if you know that you are not going to make it, you need to restart quickly, as we see LF do here. This is a trickier spot than it seems because of that angle there. You are not able to take as much speed as you need to make it past that pipe, and LF actually struggles there. And this is one of those games where once you start struggling, you will actually loop into like a pit of despair.
Yeah, well, it's a bit grim that you said you will. You absolutely will make this happen. Certain players can get out of it. LF certainly has finally gotten out of it, but really did find himself in it for a little bit there. He's got to be pretty disappointed about that, but it's very easy for that kind of thing to happen. Very easy to get frustrated with a game like this. It's kind of loosey-goosey in a lot of ways, very imprecise, very tricky to consistently reproduce the same thing on each of these tough tricks, but he is finally going to be moving on. There's definitely, don't get caught up on the tricky parts like we saw just like there. But when it comes to really being competitive at this game, there's little bits of time to save all over the place in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. Making sure that you always land on the down slopes, making sure that you get your back tire down, and certain places where it's even better to throw in a flip. I'm not sure exactly why it is faster in many situations. Tough sequence here for Sebuya in this repeated slope section. You can see when you accelerate, your front tire tends to come up a little bit, and that can be bad news. Once that starts to happen, it's very hard to get it back down and control the situation. So nice job by Sebuya in that situation.
So Sebuya is in first place currently. Oh, and he dies right before the checkpoint. Sebuya first, the Mask second, Kuchado third, and LF is an entire track behind them. But it's very close for now for all together. The players are close by skill, I'd say, and it's just about being able to not get stuck, like wondering how you have to make it through a certain obstacle. It's a tough game. It's a very unique, balanced kind of game. You have to get precise with your analog inputs, and Trials 2 being an older game, it's almost 10 years old now. It doesn't handle exactly as you think it would. Like gaming has evolved quite a lot in the past 10 years, 10 years, and we got way better at analog inputs. Pretty much, it's compared to Trials Fusion, that is the last opus for that series. It's way more stiff. It's stiffer. It doesn't feel great for certain people, and it feels better for some others. Like some people would rather play on the NES than any modern platformer, and that's down to personal preferences, obviously, but it can be surprising. And Kuchado takes a huge death here right before the checkpoint.
Yeah, this is a level with some really big jumps and some opportunities to kind of take an upper or a lower path, and they kind of even out, really. There's not really one. I mean, I'm sure one is faster than the others, but they're very close, so players kind of do whatever they want. But if you kind of get stuck in between the high path and the low path, you might just decapitate yourself on a bit of track. So that's kind of what happened there to Cute Shadow. Sebuya is going through some of these loops in this level as well. The mask is in a pipe. There's a couple sequences where we might see players activate one of the more unique camera angles. You can see, actually, if you pay attention, the LF is using a different camera angle than the other players. One of those cameras is first person, so when you lose track of your rider in those tunnels, you can actually get a view of what's going on. And there's a couple tunnels where you go in with some speed, and it's kind of unclear whether or not you're actually okay in there or not. First person not recommended for pretty much anything else in this game.
Yeah, it is a game where you need as much information on what's going on as possible. Obviously, having some options camera-wise is good, but you do not want usually to use anything but the action camera or the direct camera, which are like a little bit tilted or directly 90 degrees angle compared to your motorcycle, as LF uses. And yeah, we see him go through that long section, makes it decently, and we are almost done with all the easy tracks, where all the players make it look quite easy, actually. And the medium tracks, there's like a huge bump in difficulty. It's all the same, but all the angles are steeper. All the planks are just like with narrow angles. You have way more ceilings. You have way more precise jumps. All the platforms are smaller, but except that it's all the same idea design-wise, level design-wise.
Yeah, you're not going to see anything crazy. It's not going to be like, all right, now do a flip and land on your back tire and then flip your whole bike around, and like there's nothing like that. It just takes all the existing elements, and I mean, I was going to say the word ramps up. I mean, it literally is upping the ramp just a few couple degrees, and you can see in that acute shadow here, it makes a big difference, a bigger difference than you'd think, because the steeper you go, the much less control you have over your bike, the more careful you need to be that front tire doesn't come up, because once that happens on the steeper slopes that you get into in the medium levels, you're just going to either flip off or you're going to slam that front tire down. It's going to pull your back tire off, and then you're really going to just start sliding back down, and you're better off resetting. So Acute Shadow barely getting into some of these checkpoints. There are some merciful checkpoints through this sequence, but it's possible to take those lines really cleanly, and then this V shape is particularly pretty
the end
annoying.
of that level is pretty ugly. Sablier makes it to the start of the medium set of levels. I did not see the start of Cute Shadows and the Mask level, but I feel like they're already there, seeing like the jumps they have to make. So probably first
crazy with
and
the
second,
flips, Cute Shadow.
Yeah, Cute
right,
Shadow.
gets in
Okay,
there.
so Cute Shadows and the Mask are both on the big jump level, the second level of the medium difficulty. Sablier is on the first level of the medium difficulty, and LF is right behind him. So we have some close race between the Mask and Cute Shadow there. The Mask making better work of that level. But all those levels get very tricky now. You have like, it doesn't look tricky in that kind of game, because if you were to have like a just forward button and just a jump button, everything would be super simple. But actually it's all about balancing your body to get like some better balance and some forward momentum where you do not really understand how it's going on. It's hard to describe. It's pretty much if you were to do skateboarding yourself after watching someone do it. Like, it looks easy, but you do not have a jump button in real life, so it's...
But you're going to destroy yourself.
Exactly.
Kind of like Huge Shadow just did. Skipping over these gaps is nice, but you do need to do a little bit of a bunny hop if you want to keep going smoothly, or you can just kind of lean back and have your back tire crash into it, have most of your front body and bike get far enough over that it'll carry you on. A good way to think about the controls in this game is that you're not really controlling the bike, you're controlling the rider on top of it, and you know, certain things happen to the bike when you lean backwards and when you lean forwards, and it generally means that the bike goes backwards or goes forwards, but not quite. Really understanding that, I think, is when players kind of turn a corner on this game and start to really get in tune with it, especially when there's things like if your rider is sitting on the front of the bike, even if you're not holding forwards, the rider's weight is still pushing down on the bike, so it takes some getting used to, for sure. You certainly got your gas and your brake, and whoa, it's Cute Shadow. Okay, wow.
Making it. We get to Boulder Dash, the fourth level for that medium difficulty selection, and we have only 5 levels remaining, and it's very close between all those runners. The time for the 200 points is 16 minutes. It's going to be short for some of the players we see here, but the time limit is 26 minutes, which is plenty for LF, Cute Shadow, The Mask, and Sablier to beat the game. If it goes, like if we keep sailing at that pace, obviously you can get stuck, as we've seen for some players on trials, but yeah, I know for sure those guys can do it. They're talented runners. They've done quite okay at Eye of Sorrow. Sablier said on the Discord right after he finished IRSO that it wasn't started so great for him. But once again, 5 games in a row, you can make good work of that if you're ready for the 4 other games, and also if it doesn't get too much into your head. Like, failing on one game can really put a player in a bad mood. Sometimes depend. I know I'm the kind of guy that cannot race multiple games in a row. I'm just like too stressed out with my performances on the past games to focus on the current race.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. It's something players kind of have to do if they really want to do well in the UD. I guess you could just be so amazing that you make 0 mistakes and then you don't have anything to feel bad about or worry about. But if you are a human being, then that's definitely a skill that you need to develop. LF is now on the very tough Boulder Dash stage. We're seeing the mask is in front here. I think this is I Want Squirrels. Yeah, this is the second to last map. That is the name of the map. There are squirrels littered all throughout the level. I don't know when squirrels became a thing with this franchise, but at some point they did. They became like a mascot, sort of. I think there's even, like, you can collect them in some of the... I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
The mask is in the lead for now at medium. Number 6, second from the end. Sable, yeah, I think is in Pipe Dream.
Yeah,
no, this is Boulder Dash.
This is Pipe Dreams.
Boulder Dash. Okay,
and this is the hardest part of all the levels. It doesn't look like much, but getting on those pipes, they are slightly angled on at the end, and it's super awkward. And yeah, so the mask beating I Want Squirrels, getting to Under Construction. We are almost done. Maybe you were right. Maybe there was Boulder Dash and this is oh, I never know. Those look...
They run together.
The but LF is right behind Sablier. Cute Shadow is on the Squirrels map, and the mask is still making it in first place, Under Construction, with a harder jump. Like, it's not a jump, it's the opposite of a jump, it's a fall, where you have to get your 2 wheels precisely landing at the same time, or you will get an awkward bounce, and then making that jump. And as soon as you get the checkpoint, obviously, that's a nice relief moment. But your
definitely
wheels...
recommend landing with the wheels and not the very top of your head.
Yeah. Your wheels get stuck way more than you'd think. Like, I'd never ride a motorcycle in real life, but I do expect, like, my tire to be able to gnaw in the asperity of the ground and be able to pull me back up just a little bit. And in trials, as soon as you are off balance, it's pretty tough to get any forward momentum, and you are always struggling to get any speed if you are not precisely landed on your 2 wheels. And this is the last level for the mask that had a fantastic race. Actually, 16-minute easy 200 points mark is almost there. And
yeah, would have been easier to get there if he hadn't backflipped off the back of this thing, then backflipped even further back. Probably should have reset a while ago, but either way, he's going to get through this section now. The final exam actually is the level of the final medium level here. It's the end of our goal, so it's fitting. It's a fitting name for the end. Cute Shadow is still on. I think this is Under Construction, which is kind of a cute theme where you can see, like, parts of the level were kind of supposed to have been built, but they haven't got around to it yet. So there's just a board lying here or there, and you need to figure out how to get past it without that board. And Cute Shadow is doing a pretty good job of that. Make sure you keep your tires down. Is up to the checkpoint. Nice.
The mask is about 3 or 4 minutes ahead of Speedy. Sadly, fell on his face right here. Tough jumps, but he's having a very, very good race. That's one of those results you really want to get to on those qualifying tourneys, because It helps quite a lot.
Whoa,
Lots of
was that a triple flip? Are you serious?
Makes it to the checkpoint. I'm pretty sure he lost count of where was his head and where were his heels. But yeah, makes it sub 17. Fantastic run for the mask. Makes it first place here, and he just needed a couple of points to get past Cute Shadow. He's probably going to land on 7th or 6th place here, which is good enough for us not to see his progress anymore and just get past to see some other names that would be on the tough spot here. But Damask is pretty much free for now and is going to be nicely relieved getting into Metal Slug will be the next game. So now he has like a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes to get ready, to get the rest on that game. Sablier on the second to last level under construction. Cute Shadow at the end of under construction, or at the end of the final exam. I always confuse the middle part of all the levels pretty much actually.
I think this is final exam. LF also on under construction, so the runners all doing rather well. Yeah, this is final exam for Cute Shadow.
Those jumps. And he's going to get to the end of the final exam with that first part here with some very steep angle and steep planks. And if you hit the ceiling, the game, even if you lightly boop your head, the game is going to kill you. So you need to be very careful. And then you have those jumps here that are really difficult to get through. That level is really a nightmare, and if you are aiming for world record or just a no death run of those tracks, it's very, very scary, because like here you have that missing plank you are always landing onto, and then you have barely not enough speed to make it through the jump, and then once again here you have the tire that just make you fall. This is like precisely made for you not to be able to make it through.
Cute Shadow defying the will of the developers, getting through as LF is about to start the final exam. Sabliel's getting into these double jumps, these double back ramp, backwards things, and not going to be able to make that work. It's simply better if your back tire is caught on something than your front tire, because you only get to control whether or not you move forward or backwards with your back tire. But just too much weight was off the front there. Going to be able to get through. I think it's my favorite part coming up when you actually kind of are driving upside down off the plank to get enough height backwards. LF doing a bit of that there, almost too much, getting sent back. You have a brake button, but it doesn't do a whole lot, especially if you're bouncing. You're probably going to bounce back up after you land on this platform, so not a lot of control. Kind of got to get the launch off the wall just right, and LF struggling with finding the right amount of speed here.
It's tough for LF because he has a 20 points lead compared to Cute Shadow and the Mask, but 20 points in the UD6 is just about 2 minutes, so is exactly what he's losing compared to Cute Shadow right now. Cute Shadow finishing at about 19 minutes, and if he hurry up, he will finish at about 21 minutes, so exactly 20 points between those two players. And LF has a good history with the UD. He is one of the best runners if you on all the tournaments where the best runners were not invited. So he made very good work of the last chance tournaments, getting to the first or second place. Those were set up without the already qualified runners back in UDs 2, 3, 4, and 5. So he is a fantastic runner, but never quite made it through those direct elimination tournaments. So I really hope he has a very good success. Maybe not today, but we have like 2 more tournaments in August and September coming up with the same rules, and yeah, Aleph makes it through the final exam level at about 21 minutes and 30 seconds, so 25 points lost compared to Cute Shadow. He is maybe going to fall on the 9th or 10th spot, which is going to be the 10th position, and the one runner that will end up at the ninth place is going to be heartbroken, because it's going to be very close, I'm sure, between 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and obviously all the runners worked hard on all the speedruns. Speedrunning is not an easy task. You have to put a lot of time, skill, and energy into it.
Yeah, some people like me are very casual about it. They might not even ever do a run. They'll play around and learn some things and sort of be satisfied with that. Some people will get a little more into it, a little more competitive, and some people get really competitive. And when you invest into something like that, it can be hard when it doesn't pay off, though it can be amazing when it does. So that applies to a lot of things in life. So you can take that away from you with you and be a better person. But for now, our players would be satisfied with being a better bike driver, I guess. Malaman is hoping to come away with at least all his body parts intact on this tricky jump. It's going to try to, just get that wheel to just kind of squeak out to the side, hopefully the side that's forwards and not backwards, into this little jump section that tripped up so many people. First one going very well. Second one, I don't know about this. Yeah, that is not going to work.
I love that you have a bones broken counter on the HUD. It's all those details that made the game so fun to play with for the first time. And then getting into speedrunning trials is so much different from any other game we have on the UD6 list. It's all about knowing exactly what you have to do and trying to do it as exactly as possible, but it's so precise that you're never going to make it exactly like you want to, and you have to be able to adapt to overcome any slight detail, like the least of the incorrect input on the left trigger is going to just make you fly just a little bit, make you miss the next jump and the jump after that, and it's all, coming down to you being able to react correctly, and that's pretty interesting to see compared to any platformer where if you go too fast, you just have to release the left button or right button just for a second and you're going to be good to go. But we see that Sogitooth, Toru and Sablier already finished, getting prepared for the next game already, and Mollyman has just a minute to beat that final exam, to get those 200 points, that 100 points, my bad. And he has to relax, deep breathe, and make it through those tires. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it, actually.
This is pretty close to the end, but he needs to just, make it happen. And there's some really tricky stuff coming up. And doing it like that is not going to make it. Oh, this is a really tough sequence. Yeah, you have to hit everything here pretty much cleanly. Yeah, that could work if he needed to really sharply lean forward to kind of flip that back tire up on top of there.
This is so close.
He is, but I don't know if he's going to make it. He's definitely going to finish it out, even if that timer ticks over, and even if the scoreboard ends up showing a 0.
Oh my god, yeah.
No way!
It's barely more than 26 minutes. I'm so sad for Mollyman because he's going to fall down so far in the leaderboard and maybe not even going to be able to make it back to top 8. Sogitooth losing a minute to the game crashing. That sucks a lot. I hope I hope it's not too bad for the result, but damn, that hurts quite a lot. We are going to see what the next game is about. I think Metal Slug does not even need any presentation. That the series is very well known for its detailed graphics and precise run and gun action. The original game was on Neo Geo, so nobody was able to play through the game because nobody could afford the consoles and the cartridge.
Yeah, this was well, I don't, I was definitely not part of the like arcade culture. I was a lucky person with a Nintendo or a SNES or a Genesis or whatever that I could play. So I was never really into the arcade games. So classics like this one passed me by. They were always just like a curiosity. When I would in like a pizza shop or a movie theater or something, you would see it in the corner and be like, that looks really cool. But I didn't actually get my hands on it until much later. But it is absolutely a classic, and it makes for a pretty good speed run. Actually, there's some tech going on in terms of you're faster when you jump, but it's really more about preserving your weapons and bombs as you need them and nailing those boss fights. But until we get there, we can take a look at how we've done so far. Predictably, I was going to say our top four remained our top four, but not the case. Skunkov, actually a very strong Trials runner, and kind of snuck under the radar on Castlevania while we were talking about all the others, and mostly because I think he was pretty much done by the time we swapped him in to replace our top four. So I actually had a fantastic time in that, and had the best time in Trials. So as unseeded Zoe for that fourth position, and the two are rather close.
So good runs from a lot of people on Trials. Sadly, not so many runners did go through Eye of Sorrow in time. We see that Mollyman, not able to finish Trials, actually falls down to the 17th place. That hurts. And for our 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th place, Sablier is still there with 274 points, but LF is 30 points ahead with 308 points. Cute Shadow made it nicely back to the top 8 with 350 points, and The Mask makes it to the 7th place with 335, which is very good. Vlad has to be careful though, so is Zoff, because once again it's very close between the 5th and the 9th place, so you don't have too much room. But Skunkov, Brotherman, Melwest, Devil Tifa will probably remain on that top 4, but once again, Metal Slug is very different from what we've seen so far. It's yet another 2D side-scroller, but it doesn't play at all like Castlevania. Like, it's all about like manips, but it's not to manip the RNG and more like to manip your dodging. Like, you don't have just per se the time to dodge the bullets that are coming your way. You need to be able to dodge before the enemy even shoots at you, which is like a crazy skill to have. Thankfully, the game does play always the same sequence of enemy appearing and shooting at you if you are positioned on the same place on the screen. Like, the screen is usually divided in 4, and depending if you are on the top left, top right, bottom left, or bottom right part of the screen, the enemies are going to appear from different places, and if you do follow the same sequence, you are going to have the same enemies, and you are going to be able to dodge them the same way. And once again, like Trials, you are going to have to adapt on some mistakes you are going eventually to make. And plus, if you die, you are going to lose a lot of time immediately, because as you said, you are going to lose a lot of resources, and you have to be like precise on your ability to dodge and to go fast, and it's going to be pretty interesting. So Metal Slug is coming right now. The players are getting ready, and we once again are going to focus on the 4 players that are the most likely to either save their qualification or just lose it, being LF, Cute Shadow, The Mask, and Sablier.
Yeah, we saw Vlad jump up into 5th place. No, 7th place rather. After that strong back performances for Castlevania and Trials, Vlad has a very, very good time in Metal Slug. Though not so great in Shovel Knight, actually. Would need a PB to hit that 100-point mark, just barely. The PB's at, well, according to the UD site anyway. Sometimes these things, players opt to not update them or whatever, but he's going to need a really strong run to close out and score some decent points in Shovel Knight. But for now, is going to be sitting pretty and is also going to be in their element here on Metal Slug. Was one of the key players on the team tournament, doing well in Metal Slug, and also during the week's events when we first did Metal Slug as well. So they're in between our top 4 that we saw and our bottom cutoff point, our 7, 8, 9, 10. So probably not going to be making it onto the stream, but is going to be competing and doing well. So first level now, we've got our 4 racers on stream, and everyone looks to be pretty close, but LF has jumped out to a bit of an early lead.
So we saw, our top 4, Double Female with Brother Main and Molly Man, Skunkoff making it to starting, but yeah, we are going to focus on the Mask, Cute Shadow, LF, and Sablier, because that's where the meat of the competition reside. Like, you want to be top 8, and those players want to save as much time as they can on Metal Slug, and Metal Slug being one of those easy games to get into, almost impossible to master. Like, you always have some time to save some shot to take earlier, because you want pretty much to pre-shot everything that comes on screen. You know where everything is going to appear. You want to be as precise, as surgical as you can be. You want to shoot just exactly what you need, and either you need to go as fast as possible when the screen that is not locked in place, or you want to kill everything that locks the screen as fast as possible. And Sablier jumps a little bit too far before falling there and just misses the boat barely. Has to deal like some more damage to it, loses a lot of time here, and still in first position here.
He wanted that rocket launcher that's up there to take out these boats, and I was going to say, like, oh, did he lose the rocket launcher? But he didn't. But then he couldn't get back up and grab it, so he had to take out that boat without it. But now that he's kind of got the rocket launcher, he can kind of get back on track here. Is keeping pace with most of the other players. Boats sunk now for both Sablier and the Mask. Ella still in front, is going to be moving on to this mini boss fight. Shotgun does a ton of damage, so 3 shotgun shots and 6 bombs will take out that mini boss. And I think that means there's a skip coming up with this Metal Slug, right?
Yeah, so you want to have the exact position where if you shoot with your cannon shell, you are going to kill the front facing ladder, and if you shoot with your backward shots, you are going to kill the enemies that come up. And if you kill everybody pretty much exactly at the same time, the game gets confused and thinks that you've killed every single enemy, when actually there are still some that are going to appear for you. And the game gets tricked quite easily. It doesn't check too often if everything died or not, and that's really helpful to skip a lot of lots of cycles. Like everybody appears like one after another, and the game just check regularly, but not too much if everybody's dead, which is very convenient. So Double Tifa makes it in first place on that third level, but we're not focusing too much on the top 4, rather on the top on the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th place. And LF making good progress. Sablier, The Mask, and Cute Shadow very close together.
Really tough to use the heavy machine guns, sort of innate ability to hit angles between up and forwards. It'll kind of sweep from one direction to the other, but it's pretty hard to really make that work for you the way that you want it to. So LF does manage to do that. Also got that nice little death warp where you jump into a pit and it jumps you up higher. Not too tricky, not too noteworthy, just a cute little thing that saves a little bit of the time. This boss here does get knifed. If you bait out the knife and jump over it, you can do pretty well. Oh, getting slashed again.
Yeah, the enemy here has a very small hitbox. If you were to draw his hitboxes like a fighting game would, like it would be for super low tier, because he has a huge. You can hit him from very far. Oh, LF gets the skip here, but sadly, like, struggles getting that shotgun and those grenades, so he actually lost a lot of time here just because he was not precise enough with his first jump. Killed those tanks, and here you want to save as many grenades as possible, because the final boss you will be able to spam those very quickly, and it's all about saving resources once again, but very close freeze frame between Cute Shadow, LF, and Sablier at that midpoint.
Yeah, and another reason why you want grenades is for some of these tank enemies, if you kill them with something other than a grenade, then a soldier pops it on top, and you need to kill him in order to actually defeat the tank. Whereas if you defeat it with a grenade, it blows up and it's dead immediately, so you can just move on. Resource management, just another aspect of that in this game. You would have thought like there would be a bit more elegance to a speedrun than the few times I ever played this game in an arcade was me dying over and over and throwing my 10 bombs at things again and again and again. Turns out it's actually a pretty good speedrun strat. The bombs do a ton of damage, and we might see that if players get pushed into a corner, particularly on the final boss fight. But for now, the players have done a good job of collecting enough grenades throughout the stage that they were able to just completely decimate this boss with the grenades, and they are all still very close. And even compared with some of the top runners, they're actually ahead here. Zof and Brother Main still fighting this boss. Skunkoff a little further back there, and Devil Tifa firmly in the lead. But for now, we're back to our 7, 8, 9, 10, who are still very close in level 4.
We actually saw very few deaths so far, except for that one that was intentional, and Cute Shadow taking a continue. Like, so far, they're just like one token into the machine, or into the Orchid cabinet, which is pretty good, because, once again, that game is not easy whatsoever. You have to have a very good understanding of your hitbox, of your shots, of how to jump, because jumping is at least twice as fast as walking, which is like insane in any game. Like, that never works that way. And here you want to be in the air as much as possible, but when you jump, your hitbox gets larger, then you get like way easier to hit. So you want to know exactly how to deal with that. And here we see the mask trying to get out of that tricky situation, easily mix it with the dodging every shot. Very well done, and LF gets to the 5th mission, first place, followed very closely by Shadow and Subway once again. He's going to try to collect all those bombs, dies here.
I cannot believe that these 3 players, Cute Shadow, Sablier, LF, all keeping pace with each other the way they have in Metal Slug, and the mask not too far behind. Earned a ton of points with a really strong trials run, and only needs to keep up with the others through something like Metal Slug to hold on to that position. Can drop a few points, but not too many. These guys are all still pretty close. We got a nice slug crash there. The tanks and slugs and metal slugs, and I think it's only just the tank in this game. They do add some other stuff later on in other games, but we're back at the first game for this run, and they're powerful, and they let you take multiple hits, but they lag the game like crazy. So the most optimal thing to do, most of them, is just to get in it and immediately do the slug crash, send it flying into whatever obstacle is in your way, and it does, I think, 6 or 8 bombs worth of
Yeah,
damage.
six bombs worth of damage when you crash it into something. So usually a player go by a bomb deals 100 damage, then a single shot from your pistol deals 10 damage, so 1/10 of a grenade. Your heavy machine gun does the same, but obviously it's faster, so its DPS is way higher. And your knife deals 30 damage, so 3/10 of a bomb. Shotguns deals 200 damage, so 2 bombs worth of damage. And the bigger output damage ever is the slug crashing into something for 6 bombs or 600 damage, which is like it's pretty crazy. Like the damage, having some information on the damage of every weapon is pretty tough for Metal Slug, just because it's all done either by TAS or experimentally. But sadly, 2 enemies that looks the same, like 2 tanks exactly the same, might have different HP depending on where they are in the level, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But every single tank in level 2 have different HP, so sometimes it's 4 grenades, sometimes it's 6 grenades, which is pretty bad altogether to have like some consistent experiences with your damage dealing ability.
So this final mission has gone very well for all 4 players. All of them managed to get the skip with 8 soldiers that all need to line up and die at exactly the same time in order to trick the game into unlocking the screen before more enemies spawn in. And the only way to really kill all 8 at the same time with a knife. So you just need to hope that they all kind of cluster together on the left side. They played well for, I think, all 4, at least Cute Shadow, LF, and Sablia. And so a fantastic open to the final mission for all these players. They're on this very tricky boat section, and that very important shotgun that you can see there for LF is hopefully going to sit there for most of this boat ride and then pick it up right before engaging with the final boss at the end. If he picks it up too early, there's a good chance he will lose it, and that's going to draw out the final boss fight quite a bit. That shotgun, very important for speeding up that fight. You can choose to let the prisoner go and then not pick up the power-up, or you can keep the prisoner around to make sure you don't accidentally pick up the power-up. But
Cute Shadow. Okay, barely saving the shotgun prisoner, as you were mentioning, like not saving the prisoner being an option. So Sablier should still have his shotgun in the hands of one of those 2 guys on his boat. I'm not sure though. Cute Shadow has the shotgun there, Stemask also, LF also. They all have to be very careful with their positioning there. And they want to gather as many bombs as possible. LF using his iframes, invulnerability frames here to dodge some shots. It is a scary moment. It is so close between Cute Shadow, Sabli, and LF, it's crazy.
This is a fantastic finish for Metal Slug the Mask, taking a missile to the face. There's a couple places here where you'll actually want to die, because while you're dead, even if you're game overed and the game over counter is ticking down, this boat will continue to move. So if there's nothing in your way that you need to be blowing up, it can be advantageous. LF is into the Metal Slug, is going to pick up some bombs here. The slug will help out in the fight. It definitely lags. It's definitely slower than not using it. But you know, if you're worried about dying in this final fight before you make the most of your shotgun and bombs, the way that Sablier just did, it can be pretty important to have that Metal Slug around. He's gonna use up bombs to kill that helicopter. He could. No, there's nothing here to kill him. That soldier could have killed him. He could have died, got 10 more bombs, picked up those bombs and had 20, but now he's only got 11, and there goes his Metal Slug. So this has not gone well for Cilia at all.
Yeah, that was very, very tough for him. He's going to lose a lot of time at the end of the level here, just because like he tried to save all these resources but failed, and just he invested so much time there. Cute Shadow dies but had no resources left apparently, so that was a good death for him. This is close together, and like everything in that final mission led up to that final boss, and you want to be able to kill it as fast as possible. He's probably had like 70 or 80 HP worth of bombs, so you want to be there with as many shotgun shells and bombs as possible. Cute Shadow and LF actually having like the closest finish I've ever seen. LF with a white screen, like pose the screen exactly on the explosion frame, I think. And Cute Shadow, yeah, making it like those two guys were exactly at 40 minutes, which is pretty crazy. Sablier and Damask were so close together and lost so much time at the end of that final mission.
This boss fight it's such a pain. If you've got the shotgun and you've got like 30, 40 bombs, and you're careful to make sure that you don't get shot by any missiles that come your way. This boss is, it's 20, 30 seconds or something, and if you don't have that shotgun, if you don't have that huge cache of bombs, this fight goes on for minutes. It is really painful. We're seeing that now with Sylvia. He lost the shotgun, he lost all his bombs, so he's having to pick away with the pistol and take deaths wherever he can to refill his bomb count. He finally does get the boss down, but that is a big chunk. Like, I would say there was at least a minute lost there. And for Metal Slug, what is that? Is that
a minute is 20 points.
20 points.
Yeah.
So that's enough to go from 7th to 10th. And that's kind of the gap that is between these players. So Siblia, who is in 10th, trying to get up into 7th, losing those points is really not a good way to go about it.
Yeah, it is tough. We'll see how well the other runner do. Damas getting ready for the next game, Inertia. We are probably going to take a little break before the two final games, Inertia and Shovel Knight, so we just have some time to just stretch a little bit. It's been 2 hours, all the players need that little break. Some of them will not, will take advantage of that just to de-rest on Inertia a little bit, I know them way too much. And yeah, we see Jets barely, once again, not finishing in time. 16 minutes for Metal Slug is way harder than it seems, I'd say.
Yep, especially with the punishing nature of the game, where if you die at a bad time and you don't have a rocket launcher or a flamethrower or a gun at a time where you really expect to have it, you find yourself, running out of bombs, you're picking away with your pea shooter, nothing is dying. It can be really frustrating. So it's really easy to lose those, a couple minutes just due to some fairly minor mistakes, and it gets away from you. So that's kind of how it goes with Metal Slug, and it might be a different story with Inertia that we're seeing now. Really crazy, fast-paced, first-person platformer where you're bunny hopping and slide jumping and going faster than any person. I guess you can't. There's no way you're playing as a person in this game. There's no way.
You're
you
probably
must have,
just
like,
a
robot
flaming
legs.
robot.
Or,
yeah.
yeah, or a camera basically that moves with gravity or something. But whatever it is, whoever you are, it's a mystery because it is a first-person platformer, and with an incredible sense of speed and really a big lack of control as well. So. That is something that you can look forward to when we come back after the break, and it's something the players, I'm sure, are going to want to warm up for. Like you said, very very tough game, very different game than Metal Slug.
So Inertia is probably one of my biggest surprise as a viewer. I not yet have to play through the game, but I'm a bit scared because it's not my type of game. But as a viewer, it's a super intense experience. It's way easier to follow than I thought. I really was scared. But Metal Slug is not a surprise whatsoever. I knew it was all about minor optimization, and that's going to show in the leaderboard. And Skunkoff was fourth before Metal Slug and does not finish in time, and actually falls to the 9th place there. Wow, that's a huge loss for him.
And Vlad, like we predicted, had a fantastic Metal Slug, right up there with all the best. So has jumped into that 4th position, and everyone else is just kind of has kind of moved up because Skunkoff moved down. So starting from the bottom, we can see some players who have done, even not just well, but very well in 1 or 2 games. Really need to be able to compete across all 3, and indeed all 4, all 5, all 10, if you really want to go the distance in UD. But as we get up here, we can see now that the Mask firmly in 6th place now, so we probably won't even see him on stream next. Cute Shadow takes 7th, LF 8th, Skunk Off now 9th, and Sable 10th. So those last 4 will be the ones that we'll be watching probably when we start up with Inertia.
Yeah, Inertia is probably one of the most biggest game in a multi-game tourney, because you can lose so much time just failing a single level or just like failing over and over again. We saw on the learning tournament and on the couple of races we've done that some players did like twice their PB. You got a 7.5 minute PB, boom, get a 12-minute race time. And it's like, it's 3 seconds per point. You can lose a lot or gain a lot in that single game. I really want to see Sablier getting to the top 8. I want all those runners getting to top 8, to be fair, but Sablier is a very strong runner, is currently in 9th place in the UD leaderboard. His PB is 12 minutes on Inertia. He can get like 150 points on that game. Skunkoff failed Metal Slug is a big heartbreaker, because he was so high up there with the fantastic trials, with a very good Eye of Sorrow. But on Inertia, he's very good. He has a 9-minute PB, so we can see something from him. LF, on the other hand, does not have an Inertia time yet, so is going to be pretty intense. And apparently the runner asked for us not to do a break, so I don't know what's going on there. Usually they really want to be able to take a quick break, but you know, we are just there to commentate whatever the player wants to do. So if they're ready, if they want to go through the race, just let's do it.
Yeah, I'm ready. I cannot imagine why they would not want more time to warm up for a game like Inertia. But I guess at the other hand, like, you don't want to be, you know, the worst part of a competition is not when you're doing it. It's the moments just before you start is when it's the worst for. So I could also see someone not wanting that part to be drawn out and say, no, you know, I just did really good in that other one, or I did, but now I want to do good. You know, screw it. I don't want to sit around. Let me get back in the game. So the players are going to do that. Streams are firing, gears are whirring, and we'll get racers going in just a little bit. So Inertia is a really hard game to speedrun. I was very surprised at how precise your inputs have to be in order to reproduce the same series of jumps. I was watching and I was like, oh, okay, you jump here, you double jump there, and I jump there, and I don't land where he lands, and I'm like, why didn't that happen? And then I jump and okay, well, I did that one. Now I do the double jump, and again, I couldn't land on the same plane. And oh man, you have very little control over your player, and the slightest difference that you make in your inputs will change pretty drastically the location and angle of your jump. And it's very easy. They're going to make these platforms look so much bigger than they really are once they get going. But I promise you, they are very small. It is very hard to land on them. And I am super impressed with what everyone has been able to do in this game.
Yeah, your hitbox is like a dot, and the platforms are super small, and you can get a lot of speed if you chain your jumps correctly. And LF is struggling starting here. He has a 50 points lead, but if he doesn't make it in time, it's going to be tough. He doesn't have a time yet on the UD leaderboard, which means either he's never done a complete run, or it's just still in the learning phase. Once again, we are still early in the UD, so that would be understandable. But that shows how hard the game is. Like, what we see on some player screen, it goes crazy fast.
Yeah, this is me, basically. This is where I was at with this game. And you need to put in the time to do what these other players are doing, and LF just hasn't. You know, focus has been on other things, other games. And so this is going to be a struggle. He's going to be playing it really safe, jumping, you know, shortening those jumps and doing whatever he can to get through this and try to salvage some points here, hopefully get over that 100-point mark. And if he can manage that, then he can stay in it. But until then, these other players are going to be off and running.
So we have 32 levels to go through. Skunkov is so far in first place. He needs that. He really needs it because he is 50 points behind LF. He did not register a single point on Metal Slug, which hurts a lot. And Inertia is not an easy game. It's going to be tough on everyone if he gets a good time compared to Cute Shadow. LF and Sablier is going maybe to be able to snatch back the 7th place and is going to be in a way better position for Shovel Knight, which is the 5th and final game for today. And Shovel Knight is not an easy piece either. Like, every single game is actually pretty tough in the UD6, so you want to do as well as possible on any single opportunity you have.
Shovel Knight, at least for me though, it clicked pretty quick. When I jumped, I jumped. When I attacked, and even something like shovel canceling didn't take too long before I was able to do it fairly reliably. Whereas spending an equal amount of time with Inertia was not able to get to the point where these players are able to make these jumps and transition into these wall jumps. And but you're right, it is still a tough game, and it is also a very punishing game with deaths costing quite a bit, particularly if you've broken a checkpoint for health and whatnot. But getting ahead of myself, perhaps, as the players are on... Skunkov is in the lead here in level 13. Cute Shadow just a little bit back in level 12. You can keep track in the top right corner, because I know it is a pretty hard game to keep track of. And it's also just easy to get lost in the flow of these levels as the players jump so smoothly from platform to platform.
Yeah, it is a very nice viewing experience in my point of view. Thanks to that level counter, it's pretty easy to follow like who's in the lead, and if you get sucked in like a player screen, like look how smooth some of the movement is. And as soon as the movement does not get so smooth, that means that the runner did something wrong somehow. Like, the world record never stops. Like, you are always at the max speed. Like, you have the speed on the top of the screen. It's the max speed is usually about 1,680 units per second, whatever that means. But you want to aim for that speed all the time, and if you are able to do so, you just have to shave the corners to shave like the hundreds of the second you could save on the level. But except for that, you don't want, of course, to fall as Skunkov does here. And that's going to happen also because, as you said, it is surprising how precise the jumping and the double jumping the games wants you to do is. Like, double jumping from a platform to another is way harder than it looks.
Yeah, for reference, that 1680 speed that you mentioned is about almost 3 times faster than your base running speed on the ground. The players are using they're sliding and then jumping out of the slide in order to get that ridiculous 1680 number. And a good way to do that is actually to bind them to the same button. So there's a sort of speedrunner key binding that the players are working with here. The other thing you might want to do is bind sprint to the same button as forward, so you're always sprinting. So that's something that I think all the players are going to be using. Though they could be doing it manually, that you would have a bit more control over smaller jumps if you needed it. And you could still technically perform the same way. You would just need to be doing close to frame perfect inputs on every jump for when you wanted that slide jump. But yeah, 3 times faster with this slide jump than your max running speed. It is a ridiculous amount of speed, and it is too much speed to kill off. So that if you would go too far, you will find that you cannot just hold back and decelerate and land nice on the platform. You will see that large number tick down rather slowly. You will continue going very fast right past the platform, and it is the reason that number being so high is really the key reason why speedrunning this game is as hard as it is.
Yeah, at least it gives some possibilities from like choosing the platforms you are going to jump onto, because if you are not reaching that speed, you need to follow exactly the level design that's laid out for you, and sometimes it's way harder actually to go slowly rather than go fast on that game if you know what you're doing. And that's why the speedrun experience, it's so much different compared to the casual experience on Inertia. It is really like, it's not even the same game, and some players will like it more when they're speedrunning. Some players will actually dislike the sliding and jumping at the same time all the time, like it's, and that very nice skip here, abusing a little bit the hitbox of the ceiling and the walls on that open level. Very nice level by Skunkov there.
Yeah, but we saw a nicer level 22, mostly, I think it was, that allowed Cute Shadow to overtake Skunkov. Died a couple times in that level, so Cute Shadow went past and then also has managed to keep that lead. But with some deaths now, actually we're seeing that lead... no, never mind. It did tick over. It is still very close between Skunkov and Cute Shadow. LF struggling to keep up and try to salvage some points all the way back in level 11. And Seblia also is doing okay. Not on a fantastic run here, as currently on level 18.
Seblia is probably one of the weakest player we can see here, maybe with LF on Inertia. Still has some ground to make to be back on the top 8. Is probably going to pass LF if he manages to finish the game in time. The limit is 13 minutes. It's so quick. Like, finishing the game in 13 minutes is like really fast. The game is not easy at all. It is as tricky as you might think it is when you watch it that way, and you do not even realize how finicky the double jumping is, because the faster you press the double jump, like the space key together, like if you just let go for a single frame, you are going to jump that much higher than if you wait a little bit. And that's really strange, like it's the opposite one on what's intuitive. Usually if you want to jump high, you just wait for your jump to reach its maximum height and then you jump again, and that's not how it works here, and you have to understand that and get a good hang on what height you need and understand how you have to make it work. Cute Shadow getting like stuck on that jumping pad strangely.
This is a really hard level. 29 is kind of the last major roadblock of the run. You need to bounce off of this thing and get up to one of several platforms on the outside. And again, you're going so fast, you don't have a lot of control over yourself in the air, and that includes, you know, steering away from the some of these platforms. So you bonk your head on one, or you totally, you know, don't come down on any of them afterwards. It's a really tricky situation. Cute Shadow's past the hard part here and very nicely lands on that small platform. But meanwhile, Skunkov has jumped into the lead, is just, you know, half a level ahead of Cute Shadow.
Oh no! Now all the lead is gone. Oh my god, that final jump, I don't know why he didn't make it. Well, I know, like, if jumping is very hard in that game, but he was so close, and he will make it in time. He will finish the game in sub 13 minutes, which is already very nice, but he could have saved so much more time. Dying at the end of a level here cost about 4 or 5 points. Easily. Second to last level.
Got a gigantic curved jump here that most players just barely get in, Skunkov included. Hot on Cute Shadow's heels. One death will basically be a lead change. For now, Cute Shadow moves on to level 32. Skunkov right behind them.
Yeah, this is the end level. Like, as you said, 29 is the final very hard level. 30, 31, and 32 are a bit shorter and a bit easier, but sometimes you see the runner just miss that slide at the end, or barely missing. And we missed LF actually having a very good final couple of levels. And did he finish already?
No way did LF finish. This is him tapping out, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I was surprised because he was about like 10 levels behind at when Skunkov reached 25. So that wouldn't be like crazy.
I think he knew going in that there was probably a very low chance of him actually finishing. You put him into the different games in different ways, and the first tournament rolls around, and I'm good on 9 of them, and not the other ones. So why not jump in and see what happens? And then if you're in it, by all means, go ahead and jump in and give it a shot. So he did. Tried to make it happen with what little he knew and couldn't quite get there, which is, it's a really big ask, like you said. That 13-minute mark is not the kind of thing you can fumble your way through.
Yeah, there's absolutely no problem just joining and trying to edge your bets, but he cake quit, apparently. He quit the game and went off looking for a cake to eat, apparently. So, piece of cake, as we say. But yeah, I understand he needs to get ready. Shovel Knight is one of the best games for LF. He put like 200 hours into it, got a very good, strong time, and is very consistent at it. So, he might get back to top 8 after that, but that's going to be tough, once again, if you don't have a game. If you have that 0 point on a single game, is going to be that much harder to make it. My bet was it was absolutely impossible to make it happen, but Skunkov may prove me wrong, as he's very strong with 217 points on trials. He might still be there. Toru, one of the better players of the UD, had quite a difficult time with both Castlevania Eye of Sorrow and Metal Slug. Is not going to make it probably, but still tries to have as good times in his player card for the race time as he can. Obviously, that's still a nice goal to have. And all those players still have the August and September tournament to make it happen. And there will be a last chance tournament where all the players that are not qualified play through the 10 games back to back, just for the final, with no elimination. Just go through one shot and you have like that one final shot. It's going to be in October, I think, and they still have like some opportunities to get there, lots more time to practice through the games. And obviously, if you don't make it today, you don't have to stress so much about the tourney. You can go back to your practice routine as you want, and it's going to be a nice relief for the next months or so. If you want to take a break, that's going to be a good time to do so. If you want to practice some games at your rhythm, at your pace, it's going to be nice to be able to do so, because from the beginning of the UD we had like a strict schedule going on. We had like the races on Sunday and then Thursday and then the tourney on Saturday, and it was all very strict, and if you wanted to do everything, you had to follow the pace. And now there is no more much pacing anymore for everybody that didn't qualify. So if Toru wants to do whatever he wants, he can do that, and that's very nice. But the 13 minutes cutoff is so harsh for Inertia.
It is, and it's also especially harsh because the last player we saw on screen was Jats, who twice now has been just very close to finally getting under that cutoff mark, and it looks like it's happened again. I'm pretty sure, stream delay and things, we'll see what the final time ends up being. But man, to put in the time to get, in that 100 point mark, whatever it happens to be for each game, to be that good at all those games and then have your final time represented as 0 so far just because you were off by just a couple seconds must be frustrating. Hopefully Jats continues to improve and does well in some of those other opportunities like you said. For now, we can look forward to Shovel Knight.
Yeah, I'm super excited because that was the first game you announced with a lot of players learned the game, ran the game, had a good time, a good rodeo with the game, and now it's all about being able to do all that again after 4 games. So we had Eye of Sorrow, Trials 2, Shovel Knight, Metal Slug, and Inertia, and now going into Shovel Knight, you have to just get ready to some intense platforming, some very important boss fights. It's one of the most punitive games we have in the UD6. You die, you fall into a pit, you're going to lose a lot. There's a lot of risk reward into that game, and it's going to be very important for Cute Shadow, Skunkoff, LF, and Sablier to get as good as a run as possible. But the leads are significant now for Skunkoff and Cute Shadow at the 7th and 8th spot, as they have 617 points and 559 for Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, which is about 109 points difference for LF at the 9th spot and Sablier at the 10th spot. Sablier did not finish Inertia in time, did he?
It appears to be that way. He was on stream and he was doing okay.
Yeah, I wonder what happened.
Maybe it's a delayed submission. We'll see in a little bit. But if that is the case, then it's going to be very hard for anyone to crack this top 8, which is kind of not what we wanted as people who are trying to on a show here where we were kind of focusing on who's going to make the top 8 with this 109 point difference between 8th and 9th. It is going to be very hard to unseat any of those players. But Shovel Knight is a game that can go pretty wrong if you die in the wrong places. You can get set back quite a ways. So it's not what you want to see, but our top 8 are going to have to play solid and make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen to them. Otherwise, players like LF, players like Sablier are going to be able to jump in there and capitalize. Especially LF, who has a very strong Shovel Knight time.
Yeah, he wants to get as good at the time as he can, but as I see it, he just needs Skunkoff or Cute Shadow to not finish the game in time to be able to get to the top 8. Skunkoff PBs on Shovel Knight is 57 minutes, which is like close to the cutoff at 60 minutes. And Cute Shadow has no time submitted for Shovel Knight, so that's good hope for LF. But I still want to know, I asked in the admin channel to see if Sablier finished the game in time or not, because that would make a huge difference for that final race. So we'll see what happens. Sugitoost got a crazy good time on Inertia, but yeah, he is now at 250 points behind 8th place, so that's not going to be able to happen. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Good luck to all the runners, because it's way closer than it looks. If Cute Shadow doesn't, if we consider Cute Shadow having 0 points, Skunkoff just has to finish in time to be on top 8. LF has to get 160 points to be able to make it in time. LFPB is 156 points, so there's that. It's way closer than it looks. Sablier, I don't know, apparently did not finish in time. He either had like some personal issues or quit, or because he was on pace, so I don't know what happened. So the race is going to start. I'm interested, but the focus is going to be on LF. It's either he's able to get 167 points, the 167, or he's not going to make it. Or Cute Shadow swings in with a huge PB because he practiced the game and gets 100 points. Or Skunkoff, unlucky, does not make it in time because he dies too much and falls to the 9th place. So it's, if everybody finishing at the same finishes, the leaderboard is not going to change. But one player having some issues and it's all going to swing.
Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out, because there are some big question marks here as to what kind of skill level has Cute Shadow got to, without a PB posted. Obviously that seems like a bad sign, but maybe this is just something that didn't get uploaded or whatever. So, how good are they? And if they are good enough to get over that 100-point mark, will they, right? So that's huge. And then LF also needing to get well over a PB to make up that 160-point gap as well. So those are going to be the two players, like I said, and I'm really glad that you did, because now I'm going to be watching them like a hawk. I'm very excited for the Shovel Knight run. I'm always pretty excited for Shovel Knight. It is a very fun game to watch. It's a very fun game to play and listen to, and yeah, very solid game all around. Speedrunning is no exception. Pretty early on, we're going to see them do these drive-bys on these piles of gold here. Gold is important. We want to purchase a variety of items, and I couldn't begin to guess what everyone's route is and what items they will to buy. It's going to vary probably quite a bit, especially down here at this skill level. So I'm not sure exactly how much gold they will need, but they do want gold, so they're going to try to get as much of this as they can here and there as they go. And one of those things is attacking as you jump right off the ground to kick up some of that gold. We're seeing this really tricky jump here. Cute Shadow gets it running on that platform. Everyone's still very close in the first level.
Vlad is pretty much safe with 647 points. That's almost 200 ahead of LF, but his PB is 99 points. So the question for Vlad is either he's able to PB and get 100 points or more, or he's going to get 0. And it's like, if he's at 99, that probably means he's able to get that sub-hour mark, but in a race, you never know, you cannot reset if you fall into a pit in the second level. And Shovel Knight is all about the route you want to take, and the question, will you be able to make it or not, money-wise, because you are going to break some checkpoints to gather money, to be able to buy the upgrades you want. And if you die, you're going to lose some of that money. If you die again, it's going to be lost forever. And we've seen some races where it didn't happen as planned for a lot of runners, so we'll see how well it goes for all our runners. I do hope... Oh! Skunkov dies here, falls into a pit, loses money. 44 gold is not too much, but that does not bode well. And if Skunkov does not finish in time, be careful, because that means LF is almost sure to make it on the top 8, which is, you know, good for LF, bad for Skunkov. Skunkov had some fantastic runs at the start of the tourney, so that would be heartbreaking.
LF is into the Black Knight fight along with Cute Shadow and now Vlad. This is where shovel canceling really shines. This is attacking in the air, lets you jump out of the attack as you land, and so by repeatedly attacking in the air and jumping, you can repeatedly hit Black Knight and keep him stunned. It's not too hard to do. There's a certain sort of cadence to it, and once you get the hang of it, you can really go to town. The trouble is, once he gets out, it can be very hard to get him back in. Vlad actually down to half a hit, as well as the boss, so it was do or die, and he does. So Black Knight down for Vlad, going to be joining the other players. And due to some, I believe, some technical stuff, I think was why we're maybe going to get Mel West or maybe someone else in this top right slot. But for now, LF, Cute Shadow, and Vlad all going to be moving on to the second stage, yes, Stride Moor Keep. King Knight is here on the throne, and we're going to unseat him. Players could go for what is it, the gentle hop that lets you do the... Yeah, I don't know. Names are cute. I wish I knew the story behind that one, but jumping in a certain way as you screen transition, you get to stay in the air, but also then keep your upwards momentum and do a nice little skip, very small skip, but you don't lose too much going for it, and then if you miss it, you can just break the blocks and proceed as normal. I mostly just wanted to point it out because of the name. Okay,
so we got some player switching just because of some technical stuff, but we got Skunkov re-centered on screen, which is very, very important, because we want to know whether or not Skunkov or Cute Shadow or LF, probably one of those runners is not going to finish on time. The one that does not finish on time, depending on LF's time at the end, is going to get kicked off the semifinals that we're going to see next week. We see Mel West in the place of Vlad, because Vlad is 100% sure to make it, even if he does not finish in time. It would be interesting to see what time he gets on Shovel Knight, because he needs that 100-point PB to be able to score on his player card. But we did not see Mel West too much in the learning tourney, so we get to see him a little bit. Mel West is one of the runners to look for the finals. He may be going to be there in October in the grand finals, where we are going to play the for the first place of the UD6 live. You are going to be there. Mythical is going to be epic, and yeah, I really look forward Mel West performance maybe next week and on July the 28th to see if he snatches the qualification early, or if he still has to work during August and September.
Yeah, he's the kind of player I would have thought would not be here today, and would come in later with some monstrous times and competing. In the end, be right up there with the top finish. You can see he's very skilled, obviously, with the way he dispatched King Knight. My goodness, fantastic fight. LF also having a good fight, and Cute Shadow, who we were wondering, how are they going to do at this game, actually had a really strong opening to the King Knight fight. Almost got him down before the dash. That's kind of your goal when you're first learning this game, is to take down King Knight before that dash. It's very tricky to land the hits such that the knockback keeps you in front of King Knight as he jumps towards you. Even trickier still, you get your pogo going such that you get the 2 pogos on the way up on the high jumps. It is a very, very tricky fight, and Mel West and LF had pretty much fantastic fights, and Cute Shadow with a very solid fight all around. All 3 players are now off to the Lich Yard. Skunk Off also coming into the King Knight fight here. We'll see how it goes for them. Doing a pretty good job of landing the hits sideways, but missing the pogo opportunities, and now with that lack of hits is definitely not going to make it before the dash. Is probably going to struggle here to get him down before we get the confetti. That's really what you don't want to see in this fight. There it is. The confetti of "you were just a little slow," but he does win. That is very important. With 1 health left, does get the kill.
Yeah, I'm scared for Skunkoff now, because he is the most likely to be there. But with the 57 minutes PB, he has to work hard, and so far, Cute Shadow is making way better progress than what you'd expect from a runner that never submitted the time on Shovel Knight. The Lich Yard is not an easy level, so you have to be careful, especially with that falling platform section and that frog and those spikes. The spikes do kill you in 1 hit, but Cute Shadow makes it look easy.
Yeah, I think the ease with which Cute Shadow is throwing in these shovel cancels, particularly like not during boss fights, just like on an enemy that's in your way, get it out of your way really quickly. Just seeming very comfortable with the game. I think where we'll get a really good test of where they're at is with these dark sections in the Lich Yard. This one, not so much. It's pretty straightforward, and you always see the silhouette of the things that matter. But later on, there's a really good test of memory in the situation that Mel West is in, where you're kind of supposed to wait for these lightning flashes to see where these platforms are and line up your next jump. But of course, speedrunners don't want to do that, so they just memorize where everything is going to be. And it takes a lot of practice and confidence to be sure of where these platforms are and where you are in the darkness. And I think that's where we'll see if Cute Shadow goes through that section as quickly and bravely as Mel West just did, for example. Then we'll know that this no PB thing is a farce for Cute Shadow, and they're actually a strong runner, because they are looking very solid so far.
Yeah, let's see what it does here. It takes his time. Okay.
A little bit. Okay, yeah.
That's how you would... Oh, no!
Oh, no! See, okay, there we go. I called it. I didn't want to see a death. I wanted to see just a bit of hesitation. But, that's going to keep things interesting, I guess. I'm very surprised, because,
Cute Shadow is a very, very strong racer. He's been known to do, only race strats when he learn a game, and if you see him slow in a race, that means he went slow in his training and his PB. He does not do anything harder than what he would be able to do. the real issue with dying here is that he lost about 250 gold, which means he might be in a tough spot to get the money once, and he will not take any extra risk. Probably, he could have destroyed the checkpoint before the Spectre Knight fight, but this is a tough fight. You don't want to do that if you're not sure, and yeah, it is, and that's not the start you're looking for that fight. So Q Shadow is going to lose a lot of time there, sadly.
This is a tough fight. You have an opportunity to do some pretty big damage. Assuming you guess right, there's a 50-50 whether or not Spectre's going to be left or right. If you guess correctly, especially if you take a hit so that you have invincibility frames to get really in there, you can do some shovel canceling and get some major damage in on those bottom corners. So you see Q Shadow just diving down to the bottom, hoping that Spectre's going to be there, and they weren't. But if you miss those chances to do that damage, it's really hard to find other chances to do damage. So now, as like you can see, helplessly chasing Spectre Knight around for this final hit, finally finds it, but that is a pretty big time loss here in the Lich Herod.
Yeah, he struggled to get that final hit, and I was scared for a second that they would die, but Skunkoff way behind, and that's tricky. The spot Skunkoff is at means that he has no chance. Like, if he wants the sub-hour, he has to stop losing time everywhere. While LF buys the Chaos Horde, so that means he is on the more advanced round, so that means he has also some margin of error for on some boss fights. He can take some more hits and die a little bit more than what you think he would be able to if he took the Flame Wand route. So that's good for him. And once again, LF has to rely on either Q Shadow or Skunkoff, failing to get the sub-hour mark and still get decent enough time, but it's not, nothing is sure. Like, Shovel Knight is one of the hardest game on the that selection, is definitely the longest game, and in a race setting after 4 other games it can get tricky. LF knows that he has to do as good as he can, but also has to rely on another player failure, which is always like a spot you don't want to be in.
Skunkoff doing some pretty good damage to Spectre. Going to be able to finish it off before those enemies spawn in. So after a pretty shaky stage, finishes it off with a pretty solid boss fight. Mellow West is well into the Lost City Mole Knight stage. Mellow West is on the I think this is like the world record strats, foregoing Chaos Orb and Flame Wand, and opting to pick up just Dust Knuckles, Conjurer's Coat, Propeller Dagger, the Charge Handle, and the Gear. But LF is going to have that Chaos Orb to work with. And Q Shadow, I guess, is already in the Mole Knight stage and still has $5,000, so I'm guessing there was no shopping from Q Shadow as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised because, like, 4 HP for the...
yeah, not even health. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, clearly he died and that made him lost some money. Maybe he did not have enough to go shopping the way he wanted to, so he was like, I'm not going to do 2 extra shopping session in town because that costs too much, but now he has to be super careful because that's not a lot, and being careful will cost you time at some point. He knows exactly where the health is at in the level, obviously, so not too much time lost there. But yeah, I'm scared for because, like, to be honest, the any percent run for Shovel Knight is not too bad. The low percent one is crazy. You never had any else, you never have any damage output, and 4 HP is not a lot in that game. Oh, and Melwest, what happened?
He was trying to find the edge of that block so he could do some snuckles and skip just the last little bit of the beetle ride, and he edged out too far onto the ledge, just slipped right into the lava.
Man, that's unusual. It's the easier beetle skip once you have the Dust Knuckle you have some crazy strats with the flaming blue enemies here shoving onto them. I wonder how much he needs that money, because it's totally out of reach now. He's going to destroy that checkpoint, but yeah, that's not something you want to see. And you get to Mole Knight, probably one of the easiest fight here.
Yeah, the optimal strat, though, does involve you taking some damage. Right here, we're going to see Mel West take some damage and get in the corner, and this is where you just... That one bit of damage you trade for a mountain more, and that's going to let Mel West put down Mole Knight. But that little bit of force damage is the kind of thing that makes me hesitate with Cute Shadow's low life situation. This is a stage where typically you don't really die from taking damage, you die from all the lava and pits and the beetles and the bouncy spring stuff, and that jump a little close there, but does get past, actually synchronized now, or it was a little bit, Cute Shadow and LF. LF doesn't need the health, so he's going to go charging into the bite, and we'll see how this goes now. I think Cute Shadow's probably going to have enough money to go shopping after this, and will drop back when they go to do so, but will have got themselves out of a scary situation if they can just hold on.
Very
Let's
good
find
fight.
one more. Yes, nice.
Cute Shadow actually having almost a better fight than LF. LF having the Chaos Orb that can deal a crazy amount of damage when the Mole Knight swings by, but yeah, you can see those orbs like bouncing and following the boss, staying in its box. But yeah, Cute Shadow got a very good, nice shovel cancel when he got hit and stuck on the corner. Mel West is nowhere to be caught because he's so much far ahead. Crazy good runner overall, very solid on every single game. Mel West is so far in first place, actually, like 2 points ahead of Devil Tifa. We did not mention at all the top 4, but this is a very close altogether, and Mel West and Devil Tifa probably already think about getting the qualification right on July the 28th and 29th, and probably they know that they are very close together and that it's going to be tense to get the first spot.
I think they're probably the big 2 picks for the first 2 people to qualify for Grand Finals, and it will be interesting to see if eventually one person wins. Cute Shadow with the low life. This is the Explodatorium is the kind of level that will chip away at your health pool, and so when you've got that decreased max health, this is the kind of one that can really be a problem, and we saw it be exactly that for Cute Shadow. Thankfully, pretty close to the checkpoint, so not as costly as it could have been, but this is going to be a concern, as whether intentional or not, they are just going with this 4 health.
Yeah, Exploratorium is one of the hardest levels in the game, in my opinion, to go fast through. You have that, those spikes here, and he's taking a lot of damage, and oh, I saw that was a hole, a pit.
Yeah, the cropping is just a little bit off. There is about, I think, 1 row of blocks off screen to the bottom. But yeah, it is going to be okay for now. I don't quite remember. Okay, there it is.
Okay.
Delicious chicken.
I was scared because that enemy spits little, I don't know, purple projectiles at you, and it can be scary. This part you can get knocked back into the pits quite easily. Oh, once again, got tricked by the cropping here.
Some of these are indeed pits, like that one.
Oh my god.
Huge Shadow falls.
So close.
To get under that cutoff, you can have a death or 2, but very quickly it's going to become something that you cannot reach anymore, and it's going to be very important that this does not happen to Cute Shadow. Mel West actually pulled off a neat little trick that I don't think any other players are going to go for. This 1 pillar with pits on either side of it.
Dies in the Mole Knight stage, going thrown back to the beginning, and Skunkov is actually in a harder position than Cute Shadow, because if both of them don't make it in sub-hour time, they will both be knocked back behind LF, but Cute Shadow is going to end up in 8th position and Skunkov is going to be 9th. So it is intense. And now, really, we are at the point where they have to stop making so many mistakes. They are both talented players, they know the game very well. Apparently, like Q-Shadow, I didn't... Oh! No!
The trade, the double KO, what happens? If it's a boss, I think you're okay, but if this is just a mini-boss, so... not okay.
No, he has to do it all over again. The game is very nice for the double KO with the player, for the bosses. Even during the boss rush, the refights, if you have double KO, the game will respawn you on the next fight. But apparently that's the first time I see the double KO here, and Q-Shadow still have to farm for a lot of money. He is back at 5k. It's like he didn't collected anything still since the final checkpoint of Mole Knight, and did not buy anything. So he's back at he's still at 4 HP, which is pretty difficult situation for him.
Yeah, this is kind of turning into a low percent run. Almost has those dust knuckles, so not quite, but yeah, the money. This is like mistakes compounding into even more problems. And you know, it's one thing to die and have that throw you off. Another thing to be on a totally different route, not have items you're used to, not have the health you're used to. That can really throw you off. Looks like Q-Shadow's setting up for this nice little skip here.
Oh, very
Gets
nice. Two tries to set it up correctly, but still a very nice display of skill. Skunkov died again on the Mole Knight fight, actually, on the Mole Knight stage. And yeah, that is getting costly. West finding his way through that Treasure Knight fight, the Iron Well, and making good progress while Q-Shadow gets to the Plague Knight fight. LF getting to go through the Iron Well also, and left me having very good progress. As I mentioned, is one of the most consistent players on that game. Worked a lot on it. Like, it's been almost like he spent almost a month after, like during May and June, playing exclusively Shovel Knight. Maybe that's what cost him his inertia, learning time, and that's why he didn't get into it in time. But oh, and half an HP for Q-Shadow on that Plague Knight fight. Very tough night to fight.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on that because Plague Knight is a tough fight that will whittle you down with his chaotic patterns. It's very hard to avoid taking damage in that fight, so it can be a bit of a battle of attrition, and with that low health bar, it was definitely a concern. But Q-Shadow makes it happen, and yeah, Shovel Knight, I don't know if it was just because it was the first game and it got people excited, or if it's just because it's such a good game, but some people really got into Shovel Knight, and for better or worse perhaps, because LF did not get that inertia time on the board, but it's going to serve them well here. Mel West into this anchor section. There's some really ridiculous stuff you can do to speed up that anchor section if you want to be a madman that I don't think we'll see. Like, if Mel West isn't doing it, then I don't think anyone's going to do it. For now, he's going to do this final charge on through the Iron Whale into the Treasure Knight fight. Skunkov is in the Explodatorium, playing it very safe, waiting for these cycles. I see that flying bag, so we know there was a death here earlier. LF joining Mel West in the Treasure Knight stage.
Skunkov being pushed by the moving platforms into the ceiling spikes, dying. Skunkov is just like, I think he did not practice Shovel Knight recently. That's just rust. I feel like it's all about, he's all over the place, making some risky move, and yeah, some like stupid death.
Stuff like that.
It's
just like
he's not playing at his max skill level. He did fantastic on some of the games, so I do understand that he might be rusty on Shovel Knight. We knew that was the risk for the July tournament, because once again, Shovel Knight has been announced for the UD6 12 or 13 weeks ago. The UD is a long challenge, and time can like surprise you how fast it makes you forget some speed and you practice a lot. So it's
we knew also Shovel Knight in particular was this kind of game thanks to the team tournament. We saw across the board some pretty not great times from players, even with great PBs in Shovel Knight. It is a very hard game to put down and come back to.
Yeah, probably the one game you want to get your hands on like a couple of times per week, just a couple of hours here and there, be able to remember how the game works, and some skipped work, and how you have to manage your HP, and Cute Shadow with that half-level boss fight. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that should not happen at all. All the runners we see there are way better than what they're showing right now because of rust, I guess, just lack of practice, and I'm very surprised that the story might be like painful for actually just Skunk Off. Cute Shadow will take advantage of Skunk Off not being able to finish in time, and even if he does not beat the game in under 60 minutes, he'll still make it to next week, and sadly the week after that we are going to see Shovel Knight again, so they will need to come back to it eventually anyway.
Yeah, people are going to need to figure out how to do well at Shovel Knight in a race, because it's going to matter, like it's mattering right now. Cute Shadow does manage to finish off the anglerfish and has that money that they've had trouble holding on to. Elects not to spend it on the anchor. It's not a thing that many people pick up, but I have seen it in a couple players' routes. Cute Shadow actually going to break this checkpoint after the mini boss, so is all in it here for at least a little bit of extra gold. Was going for that pogo, gets it on the second time around. Meanwhile, Mel West is in the flying machine, about to pick up the propeller dagger, very important speedrun item, and LF is just starting the flying machine.
Oh, Cute Shadow falling back. Okay, he did not land on the spikes, and having to do that level all over again. LF actually gives Mel West a good fight. Is keeping the pace. Is not that far behind, like since almost the beginning of the run. And I guess usually on that kind of games, it's at the final levels where the time savers actually make the difference between some players, like in the Willy Fortress, in any Mega Man level, Mega Man game, you're going to see like the best player make a lot of time. But so far, like LF is about a minute and a half behind Mel West, while their PB are about like 3 or 4 minutes apart, which is quite crazy.
Yeah, Mel West is the strongest UD competitor who came in without previous Shovel Knight experience, sitting up at third with Explodrier and Magic Madman in first and second. So there's kind of no one competing today who does Shovel Knight quite as good as Mel West does, so very impressive by LF to keep pace with him through this flying machine section. We got a win here for Skunk Off against Plague Knight, who's been plaguing him really throughout this race. Has finally got him down. Cute Shadow is into the Treasure Knight fight with 4 health. Yeah, that anchor does a full 1 heart of damage.
He has to be very, very careful because, yeah, and
taking some body hits, that's not so bad. The gold wave also does 1. Cannot get hit by anything now.
Okay, that was super scary at the end, because that's the second time Cute Shadow finishes at half an HP, and having to do a boss fight all over again obviously is one of the biggest time loss. So, yeah, Cute Shadow playing way better than expected with no time submitted on the UD leaderboard. But, and Mel West barely making it on that. He was just a few pixels, a few inches too low, but the wind tide saved him.
So he's going to be moving on to the Propeller Knight fight. There is a sort of a quick kill that you can get going that is very tricky. We'll see how it goes here. First couple hits. This is not easy, getting these shovel cancels correctly, and then getting up top.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, fantastic fight from Mel West, getting that one cycle. It's not easy to even get up there in the first place, but then to get enough height and get your propeller dagger timings to not lose height, to get those last few hits in, must have got him right in the toes with that final hit. Nice.
You know, whatever works. That fight is breathtaking. Like, really, all the biggest time save the world record has compared to Mel West. Oh no, LF, yeah, saving the day with the same way Mel West did. Like, those two runners are actually having pretty much the same run today. But look at LF fights. I'm not taking anything away from LF, but I don't expect him to get the fast kill, and he's going to lose so much time compared to Mel West. And it does not get up there. Oh, yes, the anchor, which is actually going to save
that's
a lot
gonna help.
of time, so nice. But yeah,
Even with the anchor, he's still getting a whole extra swoop over to the left, and now he's back down. Now he's blown up into the air, trying not to get stabbed. Yeah, this is like a 20-second difference.
Yeah, plus
he got knocked into the pit afterwards, but he's still, it's good.
Does not matter. At the kill. But yeah, it is crazy, and the world record actually does get all those crazy fast kills on every single boss, and that's where most of the time savers reside. Obviously, you can optimize all your jumping and all your movements, but the fast kills, dude, they're so good. And
Cute Shadow is in one of the side areas that you go to get money. It's just desperate for money, so it's completed this sequence here, and has a bunch more money. So we'll see what they choose to buy. But nice kind of heads up, bold strategy. I wouldn't have thought ever in the middle of a race to go try to do something like that.
Yeah, we are at 30 minutes. Let me check my own splits. Actually, I want to know exactly how far behind for the sub-hour mark Cute Shadow and Skunkoff are, because once again, if they can make it happen, it's all good. If they cannot, it's going to be tricky for at least Skunkoff to get there. But you are supposed to finish this flying machine at about 34 minutes or so, and yeah, they're not going to be able to make it. But if they have a crazy good ending, maybe it's going to get there. I don't know for sure. Skunkoff, on the other end, they are going to be in a very big trouble because they died all over the place so far, and it's just all about like rust and just forgetting about a bunch of details and not getting precise enough to get the kill they want.
Although Skunkoff did a pretty good job of one-rounding the angler fish, has fished up an anchor, and is going to buy it.
Yeah, I like players buying the anchor if they have enough money. It's a good upgrade to have. Like it does some very good tricky kills on the stranded ship, on the Enchantress Tower, on the propeller knight fight. So I like that move. It's safer, but you have to have enough money, which is not obvious.
Mel West into the Tinker fight does with the first round. Mobile Gear just takes him out one hit. Pretty cute, but that's not the real fight. This is the real fight. And Mel West goes for some pretty crazy stuff here. We're going to see Dust Knuckles into Pogo, Dust Knuckle Pogo. Yep, this is pretty much the strat for this boss. The world record is going to be doing much the same thing. It's going to get a little aggressive right there on that phase. And then finishes it off, chasing him with the Dust Knuckle, and then the falling charge slash. So
the finish
that is exactly how he drew it up.
Yeah,
nice.
Very good. While LF is right on his toes, about 2 minutes behind. Cute Shadow fell on that triple Jawa screen, has to do it all over again. Those win
wants
levels,
the money.
Yeah, he's desperate for money. Like they lost so much dying on a couple early on during the run that they had to do that extra stage. They had to go back for all the money all the time. They are collecting everywhere as much as they can because
So 4,000 is the number here for the propeller dagger, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, the key element here. If they don't get to 4,000, I don't know what they're going to do later on, because if you practice with propeller dagger, it's almost a no-go, like completely impossible to get there.
Right. Yeah, the strats with the propeller dagger are so different from the strats without the propeller dagger. Now I'm asking myself, like, just how much money does this mini-boss give? Like, a couple hundred, not a lot. Still needs to find 550 gold. Yeah, is absolutely going to start breaking checkpoints.
Ooh,
that's a fair bit.
So close.
Oh, but okay, here's the dagger, so is there money along the way?
There are like a couple... Oh, there's a big crystal up there. Maybe, yeah, I don't know how much those are worth.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Go.
Wow.
Oh, actually they're worth a lot, like 50 per red ruby there. Nice. So, good routing, all planned from Shadow, I'm sure. Very nice. And now
that knowledge, though, of like, you know, if I do this and if I do that, I am gonna have enough. Or maybe it was blind luck, I'm not sure, but...
in doubt, just bet on skill.
Yeah. That's the second time that they've done something creative to get around this lack of gold. That, you know, going to that side area to get gold, as well as this play, I've been very impressed. You know, not so much with the deaths that got them here in the first place, but this ability to adapt in a game like this shows a lot of skill and a lot of just determination.
Yeah, and probably a lot of practice in doing no reset runs also. Being able to adapt on Shovel Knight is way harder than adapting on a game that asks you to adapt all the time, like, say, Trials. On Trials, you are going to be able to have to invent some strats at some point during, like, even a water cover run. On Shovel Knight, it's pretty much like do the correct inputs at the correct time, or you may die and you may want to reset. And being able to complete a run, even if you die, is just... First, it's hard on your mind, like you have to focus a lot, you have to overcome death and be creative. And to me, it's one of those very frustrating games because your mistakes accumulate with the gold you lose all the time. And sometimes if you die, say, at the end of the Leech Yard or the Lost City, you might think that you are going to just not be able to beat the game. And yeah, very impressive run from Shadow.
Doing the same thing as the others. It's definitely a planned maneuver to have the wind carry you upwards there at the very end, but it's still close.
Yeah,
It can go real wrong.
The timing is different because some runners wait more at the start than the others, so they know the wind is going to start sooner. Melwest went at the exact correct time. Eleft went there a bit too early and had to spam a couple of hits into the wall for it to, you know, get you stuck for a couple of frames, and then the wind started. And Cute Shadow actually went very late and had like almost no wait to do to be carried over there. So it's all about the timing.
Propeller Knight down for Cute Shadow. Ever since I can't remember where the last death even was, but it's been a while and they've been playing very well since then. I don't know if it's going to be enough to this cutoff. That is, it's pretty. You know, there are some games where it's really hard. Shovel Knight is just, I think it's like moderately hard to beat that cutoff. Certainly due to the number of players who are very close. It's at a point that it's like a turning point or something where, you know, it's not too hard to get close to it, but it actually is quite a bit hard to actually get over that 100-point mark, especially in a race. So that's the goal for Cute Shadow, to kind of shut out, for sure, Skunkoff and LF. If things don't go well for Skunkoff, Cute Shadow is going to skirt by in 8th anyway, but you don't want to leave things up to chance. You want to do your best to, make sure.
I guess we now want to focus on the duel for the first place, Melwest versus Devil Tifa, but I'm pretty sure the story is told already. Melwest is about 2 to 3 minutes ahead of Devil Tifa. LF is actually ahead of Devil Tifa, is he? That's like, I'm not so surprised by the results from those two players. I'm just surprised because that means Devil Tifa is going to have a crazy tough time to catch up with Melwest, and like Skankov is pretty much done with the game. Like, he's not going to be able to finish in sub-hour. Like, he's having so much trouble struggling with every single part of every single level. But yeah, LF about 10 seconds to 15. Oh no, the entire dream ahead of Devil Tifa, so that's about 40 seconds. Cute Shadow way behind LF in the Clock Tower, the Tinker Knight stage. We are at 40 minutes, so Cute Shadow has to work very hard to make it sub-hour, and Melwest is so ahead, it's not even funny. Like, at that point, compared to Devil Tifa, their 2 points difference is smashed by